you got people that realize like, oh yeah, like you get to cook for Kevin Hart, like that's really cool. Like you got to realize what goes into that. Like I've never cooked for Kevin like before midnight. Yeah. Because when I'm cooking for him, he's in town, he's filming something. Yeah. Ahead. But not only did I cook for Kevin Hart, I gave him his food in front of 500,000 people watching live. It was the biggest Twitch stream ever. Like you name someone, especially like in music and acting, I've probably met them. They probably, Nicki Minaj, T-Pain, like the list goes on and on. When someone famous walks into the room, like they're coming to this house as a guest, I never want them to make them feel like I'm a fan and I'm like giddy to see them. So I don't even look. Like I just look, I saw Kevin Hart was coming in. I'm just doing my thing. And like when he walks into a room, it doesn't matter how many people in the room, he individually shakes everyone's hand and introduces himself like he's like just a regular person. Because he is just a regular person. And he walks out of the room, he shakes everyone's hand and says bye to everyone. And then they're like Kevin, Kai, and Drewski was another guy. He's a big influencer too. He was there that night too. Like it was the three of them. I was like, I don't know how many times I'm gonna be able to hold a scorpion safely.
Right.
Like, I gotta maximize. I might not get this opportunity again.
Chris, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Bro, when we first met, one of the things that kind of stood out to me about you was how you were doing, like in a room full of people that were all digital, doing online related stuff in business, coaching, things like that. You were somebody that was going the opposite direction and was kind of like going towards the local market. Right. And not just local, like, like a 15, 30 mile radius. You told me that like you got your market down to just a few miles where that's kind of your main focus. And that's like, that to me was impressive when I heard that, because it immediately kind of separated you and was like, I love seeing businesses. I love seeing coaches that actually apply media to local, tangible, in-person related stuff. Because we know it works for other online and media accelerated businesses, but to apply it to something like that is just next level. So tell me a little bit about how you got into that. And then also, obviously, we're going to cover, your experience being a personal chef, which is, when I first heard that you were kind of, specializing a little more in that, I got super excited because I was like, dude, that's the dream scenario for everybody, right? Is like have somebody who can, know your taste and be able to kind of cater not just for the training for your body, but also, for your nutrition and things like that as well.
Definitely.
So, yeah, man, I'd love to hear how you got into the coaching and the fitness side and kind of the local market aspect of things. And then we can dive a little more into the cooking aspect.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's funny because like you saying that how it's different from everybody else, that is always like, no matter what, I go to a lot of conferences. I've joined a lot of coaching programs, but there's nothing for what I do. There's either like Coaching Con, which is more for nutrition coaches, Gym Con, which is obviously more for gym owners, and me being a mobile personal trainer and a mobile personal chef / private chef. We'll get into that. But there is no program for like what I'm trying to do specifically. I am lucky enough to where I have an amazing mentor. His name is Jason Phillips. He's literally like the best business mentor that money could buy. And so luckily I have him guiding me, but it is a very unique business model. And honestly, how it all started was with personal training. So I've been mobile personal training for 10 years now. And in the Atlanta area, I used to drive all over Atlanta, like crazy far. I was driving 33 plus hours a week.
Wow.
On top of training. So that's not including like my work hours. That's just me driving from place to place, because I was just taking clients like wherever I could get them, honestly.
Sure.
In the beginning. And I noticed that there was like a few themes that was happening. Like I was driving all the time.
Yeah.
I was driving so much that during the one summer, I had like a tan line from like, you could tell from like when the sun is hitting my car. That's how much I was driving. I was
get that too.
I was getting like calluses like on my hands from just driving.
Yeah.
I work out a lot, but this was from driving.
Right.
So I was like, okay, well, there was also another thing where it's like all my favorite people to train and all the people that could afford the pricing was in one central area.
Yeah.
So I was like, why am I doing all this driving? And especially like at this point I had no employees, but knowing like eventually I do want to scale to have employees, like I'm doing this and like I'm getting paid all the money and it's still a lot. Like to pay an employee, which obviously they're not going to get all of the money. They're going to get a good pay, but they're not going to get all the money. It's going to be really hard to find someone that is willing to do that because I'm insane. I was like, I'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
But not everyone can get there, especially if it's not your business, it's not your baby, which I understand. So I was like, okay, what is the best way to kind of like centralize things? And I really have like a 2 to 3 mile radius that I train people in, that I cook for. I'm doing some travel stuff now. So I will travel sometimes to cook for people. But most of my training, my main business is in that small, it's called Chastain Park. It's a small community in the Atlanta area. So I'll go a little bit outside of it, like the little town right next to Brookhaven, but it's still just like a 2 to 3 mile radius that we mainly train people in and cook for people in. But honestly, like the community that I'm in is like amazing. Yeah. They are literally the nicest people. They will do like always go above and beyond to help me in any way possible. My business is mainly word of mouth. So a lot of it has been referrals. I've obviously been able to leverage social media a little bit because I noticed like, okay, if I post something out there and I tag my client and they repost it, all their friends are going to see it. Yeah. So that to me has been like a huge strategy to like leverage social media in a local market. Even like following like people that they follow. I'll get like recommended followers and I'll follow those people. And doing that, I've gotten clients from. Because like literally just follow their friends. Their friends like, who? Oh, you know this person. They see we follow each other. Oh yeah, that's my trainer. And then literally become my client. Yeah.
And this is actually like, what you don't have hundreds of thousands or millions of followers on a given platform, right? No, like what, how are you, what, if you had to guess, like what's your approximate?
It's like, I have like 2,000 followers on Instagram and that's my main platform that I use. So I don't have a lot of followers at all. And also my business model is like, I've kind of chose, especially recently, to like not need that many.
Yeah, that's the best place to be.
Yeah, I just want a select few people that I can just get amazing results for and give all my attention, me and my staff, give all our attention just to getting them amazing results. I don't need like 100 clients or 200 clients and just give like mediocre service. Like it is a very like niche tailored service for a small group of people.
So I want you to take me back to when you got the first client in like that vicinity, that radius, where you said, you're like, okay, they fit, they can pay the pricing, they can afford, what you're charging. And you also like enjoy working with them too. I'm sure you had a moment where you were working with people that it was like, you want to deliver that attention focused kind of service, but it's like you're not able to charge what you need to maybe to do that, right? Was it a big turning point when you first discovered that person and you were like, whoa, this is like, take me back to when you first were able to nail somebody in that area where you began to see like, oh my gosh, I think I could double down in just this vicinity here.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like, I say it quickly, like, oh yeah, I just decided I was going to do this one particular neighborhood, but it took me about a year or two before that moment where I realized it to the moment where like I was actually in that community now. Because I got that first client. Funny enough, it was from a referral of someone that lived an hour and a half away. So that's how crazy it was. I was driving an hour and a half to go train someone. And they referred me to someone in this neighborhood. And from a previous employer, I had trained a few people in the neighborhood. So like I was familiar already. When I first started training, I've been training people since I was 13. Yeah. So when I first started actually training people, it was kind of in this neighborhood, surrounding neighborhoods. But then when I went on my own, I was just taking whoever I can get. Yeah. But so by the time I got this person, I was a little familiar with the neighborhood already. And I was kind of reminded of like how nice it is, how easy things are. Like people aren't canceling last minute. People respecting your time, which is a big thing for me. Like I always want to,
of course, because you're driving 33 hours at this point.
Yeah.
Still, right?
So, like, and like my thing is I'm driving 33 hours and on time almost every single time.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, I'm very like punctual, and I'm very big on like respecting someone's time.
Sure.
Like money comes and goes, but like time we never get back.
Yeah.
So like for me, I'm very big on that. And like in this neighborhood, everyone respects my time. I respect everyone's time. And there were just so many things about it. I was like, I even told the clients like, okay, like how do I train your friends? Like how do we do this? Like I only want to be here. And I was very open about it. Like I only want to be in this neighborhood. Like I don't want to be anywhere else. I don't want to be driving all over the place. And through trial and error and time and just sticking to it, I slowly developed that clientele. And the good thing is once you're in, and now it's like, now I'm at the point now where I'll get a client and multiple different people have referred me to that client that don't even know each other. So now it's like, so now I'm established enough to where like I'm driving down the street and I'm like waving to people like, oh, that's my client, that's my client, that's my client. Right. So then I have like multiple people on like the same street. So now like I've gotten to the point where I am pretty established. I'm still obviously have room to grow, but also I don't need everyone to know me either because I only need a select few. Like I only need a select few people that need my service, want my service, and I can deliver a great result for. Whether that's losing weight, which for a lot of people it is, whether it's just getting in better shape, getting stronger, just being able to deliver whatever that result is. Because obviously, like, there's so many different ways to go about it. But honestly, I believe to my core, my offering when it comes to like me cooking for you and me training you is like the ultimate offer in like health, fitness. Like there's nothing more. It's completely done for you. If you have someone cooking all your meals and someone literally there for all your workouts, I mean, you almost guaranteed the results. It's almost like impossible to mess up. So,
yeah, and I think one of the things that I wanted to bookmark there that we'll probably come back to, right, is two things. One is referrals. Okay, so you've cracked the code, you figured out how to do that, and I think also in a market and place where it's having a personal chef or having a trainer or coach is to me similar to sometimes even like a therapist, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, therapist,
definitely. Right? It's like aside from obviously like the discussions, but also there is the access that you have, which some people are totally cool, like yeah, meet my therapist, right? But a lot of times there's this like, oh, like I want to keep you for myself. Like, are you going to be able to still work with me if I refer you this person? Because it's like, I'm sure it takes time. Like it takes a decent amount of time making meals, training people, driving to places. Did you ever run into that, like that resistance in referrals? Or for you in this market, was it very effortless to be like, oh yeah, like you got to work with Chris. I want the same for you as I want for me.
So the first client that I was telling you about, that I was very open with her, like I want to be in this community. She was the latter. She was like, I don't want to lose you.
Right.
I don't want, but she wasn't saying that to me at the time. She was like, oh yeah. I later learned that like her neighbor, like 3 doors down that I train now, for 2 years was trying to get my information from her. so she wasn't really throwing my name out there.
Yeah.
But that's just her personality. That's who she is.
Yes.
Anyone she finds good, I think she tries to like just keep in close, like you were saying.
Yeah.
But
well, people probably also feel that there is an edge by hiring you, right? It's like I look this great, I feel this great, I perform well because I've got this secret guy in my corner. And that feels great to some people where it's like, I don't want to reveal that to you. But sorry, continue. How did that move forward?
And then once I started getting in, there are a few clients that like I've seen in my business and other businesses. They're like hyper referral clients. And they have like the network with the friend group. And they're just wanting to help you and really push you. I've had like 2 or 3, honestly, in the last couple of years that have been like a direct result of like my business like doubling, like literally.
Wow.
And just getting those few clients, like not everyone's going to refer. And a lot of times people refer and the people that are being referred to just aren't taking go up on it. So a lot of times people will say like the take rate on referrals is also the thing that someone has to think about. Like sometimes for every 10 referrals that get put out there, only like one person might actually take you up on that and even try the service for free, let alone paying for it. And there's just so many things that goes through someone's head, especially with fitness.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of people, they feel like they're failing. They feel like they're scared to try something new. They might have been burned with a bad trainer before that like absolutely destroyed them. There's so many things into it that can stop someone from wanting to take that leap to reach out to me. But they're definitely like those few clients that have like been hyper referral clients. I mean, it has been like crazy, like the wildfire. And usually like I train predominantly like moms in this area, and like one was like a PTO, like the head of the PTO. So like literally she had access to all the moms at the school, and that was like
right.
Yeah. So that was like huge. And there's actually recently I just started training a client. This will be a big theme of this whole like interview.
Yeah.
Me giving. So that like my biggest core belief in like business and life is like you always have to give, and like whoever gives the most is going to win the most.
Yeah.
And so I have a new client that I just started training. I donated 6 weeks of training to this school for an auction. So they were raising money.
Oh, that's cool.
And so she won it. There was a raffle and she won it. And now she is in the neighborhood right next door, but I still train people in Brookhaven. And she has like all these friends. And now like I'm, like training them, and now it's spreading too. And being able to do that has been huge, because once you get those hyper referral clients, like your business can grow very quickly.
Yeah.
Especially because the more like referrals are exponential. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4. And one of the best things for referrals is ask right at the beginning. It's one of the best times to ask.
Okay.
Once they become a client.
Yeah.
Hey, like we're going to get you this result. You're most excited about it right now. Do you know anyone else that would benefit from me training them for free? So you're not asking for like, hey, can you like pimp out your friend to give me some money?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Like everyone loves a deal, and everyone loves sharing a deal. So like if I offer like right now for the summertime, I'm doing a summertime slower, because a lot of the moms are traveling because they can't travel a lot during school season. So when school's out, a lot of people travel. So because summer is slower, what I'm doing right now is I'm offering 3 free weeks to anybody that wants to try it in the neighborhood. So anyone that's qualified that wants to do 3 free weeks, they get it completely for free. I've never done something that crazy before, but what it does is A, it's like a no-brainer. And then B, it's going to be a better use of my time than doing nothing. So like my time is worth less because all my clients are gone. Yeah. They're all traveling. So I could either be like, oh, I'm just going to wait around and see what's going to happen. And like, oh, summer's slow. Or I can like double down, take action. My busiest times, like not busiest, but my most profitable months ever have been in quote unquote slow seasons. Last December was my biggest month ever. Next month will beat that. So it'll be my new biggest month ever. And these are slow seasons. Yeah. And a lot of people be like, oh, it's December. Nobody wants to train. Right. Oh, it's summertime. Like everyone's traveling in this neighborhood. Like I'm not going to get new clients. Or you can just take action. Yeah. Double, triple down. And then you'd be surprised at the result you get.
So the one thing you highlighted, which I think a lot of people on YouTube, on social podcast, they're not, acknowledging this enough, right? One is the quality of delivery or quality of fulfillment, right? So everybody talks about sales and marketing, but like nobody talks about how to improve the experience or improve your product technically, right? Which for you is the direct result for all of these referrals and all the stuff that's coming.
It's everything.
Right? So that's one. And the second one is everyone's like, I think that's also on social that we listen to or follow or know of. They are the ones who want the bigger followings and are putting themselves out there and, trying to go for a lot of reach, and the algorithms favor that, right? So eventually you kind of begin to be like, oh, this is what you need millions of followers in order to like run a business, when it's a completely separate goal. It does help the business, but it's a separate goal. And I think what's interesting is the way that you have talked about like what I look at as efficiency, right? Which is like, do I really want 100 million people to know me? Like, it's like, I don't know, it's like, it's nice if like you could achieve what you're thinking 100 million people gives you with like 10 people, right? Like, that's probably satisfying for you, right?
I'll say this too, like in my profession, like the kind of clientele I work with, I am surrounded by a lot of celebrities, and I do like hang out with them sometimes and go out with them sometimes in public. It is not what people think it would be. I mean, and they handle it very well.
Yeah.
And like, I actually admire the way they handle it, because I've been with them situations where they weren't having the best time. They may have been like going through some things. I know they're going through some things, and like people coming up to them and they're being respectful and they're taking the pictures. But like, it is hard. You lose a certain aspect of life when you get to a certain level of fame, where
anonymity.
Yeah.
It's
And
gone.
it just like, you no longer just like go out and just hang out. And like, it becomes a different thing. And like, you have to be more mindful about like so many things that you don't even think about.
Yeah.
Until you have to start thinking about them. So like the fame, I don't know. I mean, I'm not opposed to people knowing who I am. Yeah. At all. Especially if I can have a bigger impact. But I just don't know if it's necessary. I think people like you were saying, like the vanity metrics of like the followers, the likes, I don't think that correlates to like the actual like financial side of things. Like, I think most people would be surprised how broke some big influencers really are. Especially if you're good at making content, you're good at growing an audience. There's also another skill of monetizing that audience, which a lot of people don't have. And if you don't have that skill, it's going to be really hard to make money off social media. It just becomes really hard at that point.
Well, especially because the model that we're maybe referencing, right, is people who are like, oh, I want the most amount of people possible because I want to make ad revenue, or I want sponsors or brand deals. So you want to monetize, or you want to sell t-shirts, right? You want to do something that's like, you haven't really developed a product. You're trying to monetize the attention that's already there, which is possible. I work with people that do that too, right? But it's not for everybody. It really isn't, right? It's you can get a lot further in business sometimes by doing the types of things that you're doing, which is like, your influencer is that mom who is the PTO person that has access to all the other people and is the influencer to them, right? Like, kind of, it's not online. It's not like in front of everybody. It's not to 20,000 people. It might be to 20 other moms, but those people are like, it does matter. Like, if those people were watching your stuff on Instagram or wherever, like, that's a view. Right? Like, that's that's one person, one set of eyeballs that's behind that. And it's not equal all the time, where it's like, sometimes it could be a bot.
Yeah. I'm actually actively like forcing people to unfollow me on Instagram, because what I'm doing right now is like, that 2,000 followers I have on Instagram, a lot of that was before I hyper focus on the community I have now. So there are people that have watching my stuff. I don't want them to watch my stuff. So I'm like literally like manually like unfollow, like making them unfollow me. Because like, I know like the more hyper fixated, I want all my followers, or the majority of them, just be in my neighborhood that I'm trying to serve. Because like, if anyone else sees it, cool. Like, I hope I can help them with my content. But my main goal, I don't want to go like wide and shallow. I'm trying to go narrow and deep. And that's with how many people see me and the impact I have. Like, a lot of people, especially in the fitness space, like, they'll have a big impact, but it's very narrow. Like, I have my main client right now that I've cooked for and have trained, and we'll get into how that relationship started. For a couple of years now, he's lost over 100 pounds, and wow. I would rather do that and like change someone's whole life. And it's not always that extreme, but 100 pounds to someone might be 5 pounds to that mom that just has been struggling, that doesn't like the way she looks in the mirror. Like, not everyone's 100 pounds is the same. Your 100 pounds might be 10 pounds. And that might be the difference between being comfortable in your own skin, being comfortable in the summertime, being able to go to the pool, being comfortable, being intimate with your husband. There's so many things, and I'd just rather go narrow and that's why I'm targeted. That's why I have this type of audience that I'm trying to train, because I understand them. I've been training them for years, and I know exactly what they're going through. It's hard. You have the kids. Yeah. You're taking the kids all day around, taking them to school, picking them up. You basically become the Uber driver from sporting event to sporting event. And it's just hard to cook your own food and to be on top of things and to drive to the gym. Like a lot of my clients, there is no time to, I'm going to go drive to the gym, work out, drive back, take a shower. Like, where does that fit in your day? So that is why I like to hyper fixate on those kind of clientele and make sure I can deliver them a service and get them an outcome that they really want, that not many people are focusing on. And so I have the advantage because I know I can get them that result because they're my whole focus. And that's why I rather go just narrow and deep.
Tell me how hard it was for you personally to not have FOMO when you commit to something like that, right? So because it's one thing to even niche down or commit to something when it's digital, right? This section, this subset of people, this niche is who I help, right? But with what you did, it's all right, it's almost like if this doesn't work, it doesn't work, right? It's I'm going all in on this 2 to 3 mile radius. And that takes a lot of discipline, I think, more than people would realize, because what you are actively having to do at the same time is say no to some of the clients that are hitting you up who are like, yo, can you come out to the 100 mile, drive an hour and a half? And it's easy money. You could say yes to it. It's hard for a lot of people to say no to that, right? Because you don't want to disappoint them. You want to keep them. You feel stupid for saying no to it. There might also be a lull while you are doubling down and making that transition to a radius where it's okay, you're going backwards before you're going forward type thing. And that's the part that I think a lot of people can't stomach, right? So how did you stomach that and commit to it all the way?
I think the big thing to realize is a lot of it is I'm changing my outward marketing. I always have the option when people come to me to accept or deny. So they come to me, oh, I live here. I can be I can or I can't. Now, you're right, there was a lull, but I just knew what I wanted. And that's the big thing. I knew that I wanted to train these people. I knew I wanted, honestly, even just to be in these homes. It's just nice to be in a really nice house. Yeah. It just feels good. And I just knew that's what I wanted. And I wanted that so badly that I was willing to accept whatever the price of that would be. Yeah. And so it was no other way for me. It was no other option. This is what I was going to do. This is what I wanted to do. And I just doubled down and just stuck to it until I got there.
I think you highlighted on another key point that was another break my brain moment for me, at least, was okay, I didn't grow up around a ton of wealth or anything like that. And so when I got put into networks and got access to those people that had wealth, that I think over 10 years rubs off on you a little bit. You get to see what do people who have money, what do they value? How do they think? I think a big misconception, right, is that people who are affluent just kind of are suckers, and they throw the most amount of money at everything. In fact, a lot of times what you realize is they appreciate a good deal better than anybody, right? And so it's almost there are all these nuances that you learn as you are surrounded more and more by that crowd. And also, I think my question for you is for your own packaging and pricing and your offering, right? Did you struggle at all with going, this is what I deserve, this is what I want to do, this is what I'm going to charge? And at least for me, I remember that first sales call with, when I had a new price or for a new offering or something that was you're holding your breath, is this going to work, right? Did you experience any of that, or were you at the point where people were willing to pay you that and you didn't have that gave you the confidence, that route maybe?
So there was a few moments where this kind of as I evolved as a trainer and as a business owner, and these were back in the days where I was just training, wasn't even cooking yet. When I was still doing all of Atlanta, a personal trainer hired me because I do boxing and fitness. So a personal trainer hired me, and I drove to his house, and he was like, I was only charging $50 at the time, which is crazy undervalued, especially like for someone that's coming to you, let alone just personal training in general. So he was like, you could have charged me 75 and I still would have paid you. And like, I was like, what? Keep in mind, a year ago, I was working for someone else and I was training a few people a day. I was getting paid $50 a day. Yeah. So like, I'm coming from like $50 in 1 hour. I was like, holy cow. Like, I was uncomfortable charging that much because I was getting paid so little before for years. And this is years and years and years of me getting paid $50 a day, which include like the amount of time I'm traveling, paying for gas, yeah. Actual my time. I was getting paid like half of minimum wage. Yeah. Like there were some days where it was not as busy, so like it was kind of better if you did it per hour, but like I was not making a lot of money at all. And so when he was like, you should charge 75, I was like, no. I was like, you're insane. And almost like, this is kind of crazy looking back at it now, but I was almost like he was another trainer. So I was like, is he trying to like mess with, like make me charge yeah. more so I get less clients right. So he can get more clients? I was like, what is happening?
Psychology.
Yeah, I was like, what is happening here? But actually, like after that session, like I did start charging 75. And like you said, like the first person was like, oh, like someone's actually willing to pay this. The second person is like, okay. Like people are willing to pay this. Like I can actually charge that much. Yeah. And it was mind blowing to me. The second kind of a couple years later, I'm a little bit further advanced. I've done nutrition coaching for a while now. Like my service is a lot better. I'm now starting to focus on this on this one location, this one neighborhood. And I was going to upcharge my price again. And instead of doing by sessions, which as a trainer, you should not just sell sessions because sessions like mean nothing. You should sell to an outcome, to a goal. Yeah. And that could be a number of things based on the person. But like anyone can work out by themselves. Anyone can go to Planet Fitness for $10 a month. So like if it's just a workout, like you can look up a workout on YouTube. Workout itself isn't valuable. But having a nutrition coach, having a personal trainer that's going to help you get through the plateaus and reach your goal, that is what you should be selling. So I was like, okay, I'm going to switch my business model a little bit. And I'm actually going to do monthly billing. And you'll get X amount of sessions a month, also with nutrition coaching. And it was $1,000 a month. I told my mom, and she like looked at me like, what? Like, right. Who? And I didn't believe it either. Like, yeah. I remember I took a business course a couple months before that happened. And I was paying them $1,000 a month. And I was like, man, if I can get people. So I was like, I need to become a business coach because I want to make $1,000 a month from people. Like, that's insane. That's crazy. Yeah. So I started doing that. I started doing sales calls with that price point. And the first person I got, I remember I was like, holy cow. And then the second person, like even the first person, it feels like a fluke.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like, you might be really stupid. Like, I don't know why you said yes to right. this. But like after the second person, after the third person, it's like, holy cow. And now that I'm kind of like full circle, now I'm at the point where it's like, I'm cooking for people. They're paying me a lot of money. I'm giving them a great service, but they're paying me a lot of money. And I'm now getting comfortable with that. You know, I have one person that it's paying me. Now I have two people. Now I have three, and it's just adding up, you know?
Yeah. That actually is the exact strategy I used when I grew my business was like, if I could nail it 3 times and get somebody to say yes, I would jump up to the next tier and try to do it again. And every time it was just like, I didn't think it would work. But when one person did, your mind's like, okay, well, can I get the second? Can I get the third? And then it gives you the confidence every time somebody says yes, right? For you, what was the mental leap to, I guess, deciding that that's what it was going to be? What the first time you spoke that on a sales call or the second time that you spoke that? Because now it's probably easy for you to understand and go, yep, this is what it's worth and this is what it is, right? Do you remember what that was like? Were you like nervous? Were you sweating? Like, do you remember the conversation when that happened?
I think when I increase my price, I think there's two things that help me. One, I know no matter what I charge, the value is significantly higher. Like the price point of an average like full-time
I
private
know what you
chef
mean. Yeah.
and a personal
Yeah.
trainer together that comes to your home is here. I charge here. And so
Yeah.
this here's a lot,
Yep.
but the value is so much more. And the other thing that makes me feel better when I increase my price is it's always negotiable. So like if I, that's just easy math. If we're talking about $100 and I'm gonna charge 100, like what I used to charge was 100, and like I'm going to 150. If I tell someone 150 and they negotiate it down to 100, they feel like they had a great deal, and I charge them what I've been charging everyone else.
Yes.
So that
Win-win.
So that's how I see it. It's like if I introduce new pricing, which I do, I always like go into it knowing that worst case scenario, I have wiggle room now to negotiate down where I might not be willing to go down less than 100. But because I brought it up, now I have wiggle room to go down and work with them. And what I always do too is like pricing is flexible, but you always want to give them a reason why it's discounted. Because people don't want to be like, oh, you're charging my friend this, you're charging me this. Why is everyone paying differently? So it's like, oh, if you give me a referral, or oh, if you give me a testimonial, or oh, if giving them a reason why it'll be discounted, or maybe you buy, 6 months in advance, or a year in advance, then it'll be discounted. So don't just leverage it like, oh, you say it's 150 and like, oh, that's too much. Oh, we can do 100. It's like, well, why didn't you say 100 to begin with? You have to give them a reason why it's being negotiated down. That's a lesson I learned the hard way.
This is something I think about still years later, because in every business that I've had, an industry that I've worked in, I always started out in like the markets that just no matter what, they're not going to pay beyond a certain point. Like they're just not the right demographic for the level of what you're trying to offer sometimes, right? And then you move up market, right? And you offer the same thing to somebody else and they eat it up. And you're like, that was so easy. Like, why was it so hard over here? And then you realize, oh, okay, it's kind of like they're just not at that stage in their journey. It's not even all the time about money. Sometimes it's an example is this, right? Like when I was coaching at CrossFit gyms, I wanted to be doing remote programming and remote coaching and being in that world, right? That was kind of the dream life for me back then. And I remember like you could try to get some of those people that were at the CrossFit gym to do your remote coaching program or whatever. And many of them did, right? But even then they had the pull to community and to pull to like doing group stuff and like not feeling like they're doing their own thing kind of on their own on the side, right? And so it was just not like they weren't the best customer for that type of service. But then eventually 7-8 years later, when I actually did get that dream gig and I was a remote coach now, and now I got to see we were working with executives, you're working with people who are just like, they are not only willing to pay the price, but you're not having to get them out of those situations. Like, no, don't go do the group class, like focus on your workout for today. It's like, they're already focused on the workout. That's what they want to do. And so I think that's a big revelation where it's like, if you're offering the same thing, but to the wrong people, it could be the best thing in the world, but it's like, if they can't pay or they aren't willing to try it, you can't make it happen, right?
I think something to realize too with that is like, if you're selling a $50 thing and you're selling a $50,000 thing, the $50 thing is probably going to be a higher percentage of what that person has money-wise than the $50,000 thing. Most people that are thinking about paying for a $50,000 thing, they have millions of dollars. Yes. Most people that are paying for a $50 thing maybe have, depending on the person, but on average, most people can't cover a $500 unexpected expense. Right. So hundreds of dollars. Yep. So that $50 might be 20% of what's in their bank account currently. Yes. So they have a much more emotional connection to that $50. Yep. Also, that $50,000 buyer has a lot more certainty in what they want. Yeah. And they'll know pretty fast. Like in some ways, a $50,000, this sounds insane, but in some ways, a $50,000 sale is easier than a $50 sale. And honestly, I promise you from experience, I've sold something for $50,000 easier than I've sold something for less than 50.
Wow.
And I have that. So an example I have, my cooking service and personal training service combined together can range between $50,000 and $100,000 a year. Some of those sales have been the easiest sales. Not even sales, like literally just like falling in my lap.
Right.
Literally. And I released a cookbook. And I partnered with an influencer that I cook for, which we'll get into how I met him. And we partnered together to do a cookbook. It was like $29. And the cookbook had the meals that I was going to cook for him. So like it was going to be very integrating. Like he's going to be eating live on stream and people could eat the same meals with him. Yeah. So it was like a really cool idea. And there was 9,000 people watching live when we launched it. Right. Like 10 people bought it. Because for those people, that $29 had a huge emotional connection to. Yes. For him, that $50,000, A, he knew he was going to get so much more value for that $50,000 than what he was paying. But B, like, it's $50,000. To him, that's not a big deal. Yes. You know, not the same way that $29 was to his audience. And so, like, you definitely, I mean, if you want to be rich or even just make good money and just be compensated for, like, how you should be, you almost have to like go for a high demographic. Yeah. I mean, I only work with affluent people. Yeah. There are multiple. My normal day, the only people I talk to are millionaires. That is like my normal day. Like, that's it.
And I would say that you're right. Like the reason that it's easier to probably make those sales is because a lot of times those people have decided already. Like they made the decision already and you're just kind of guiding them to that decision. And it's not kind of this like I don't know, like the desire level is probably very high too. And also the ROI, right? So the ROI kind of for that person, imagine if you're willing to invest 50 to 100K into your body and, you know, certain things like that, you're like, there's something on the other side of that you think is more valuable, right? Whether it's what you highlighted, which is like just feeling more confident in your own skin, or, you know, maybe like you're a streamer and you have to be on camera all the time and you feel better because, you know.
And sometimes it's just like, I am also like the private jet of fitness. I save you time from not having to go to the gym. I save you time from not having to cook. Sometimes because I'm doing the grocery shopping too. So I'm cooking, grocery shopping, training you, taking care of all your meals, taking care of all your workouts. You don't
washing dishes too.
Washing dishes too. You don't have to think about anything.
Right.
And so you're able to use that time and maybe work more, or maybe spend that time with your family. I have clients that use that time to work more, like my streamer. Like he'll be streaming as I'm doing all the things. And then I have other clients that maybe are more family oriented and they just want to spend more time with their kids, because honestly, they're not going to ever get that time back. So you can spend that time cooking, which is, and especially if you like cooking, there's nothing wrong with cooking at all. Don't get me wrong. I do it all day, but you could spend that time that you would be cooking, grocery shopping, doing dishes, or you could be spending quality time with your kids. And there's a study that came out. Parents on average spend obviously 18 years, the first 18 years with their kids, but after the kids turn 18, on average, the rest of their life with that kid is 1 year. So you spend 19 years with your kid. The first 18 when they're in the house, and then 1 year collectively after they leave the house. So that time never comes back. You know, like, yeah, you may spend money to pay me to outsource that thing, but you will never get that 19 years back. Yeah. So,
dude, that's that's crazy. I think the streamer that you're talking about, I did want to pivot and transition to more of the coaching service now, right? When I texted you, even for this pod, right? Like you were cooking for somebody really big, somebody we all know of, right? And I remember us seeing that video. I think you showed a little bit of like what you were cooking or whatever, things like that. One, reveal to me how, like, who it is, because I'll let you do it, and how that came about.
Yeah. So the story of me like cooking for Kevin Hart goes back years and years. So we'll start from the very beginning, and it starts off with the story of how I started cooking for my streamer. That's my full-time client right now with cooking and personal training. And I think this is probably going to be the most important part of this whole podcast. If there's one takeaway I can give to people is you have to be able to give. Like, and give at such a high level that like people feel uncomfortable with how much you're giving them, and other people are telling you you're doing way too much. This has been a steady thing in my life. Every time someone's told me like, "Oh, you're doing way too much for that person," usually I know like good things are gonna come.
Yeah.
That's usually how I know. So this is how I met. His name's Agent. Agent 00 is like a streamer name. He lives in a house with a bunch of content creators. And the group is called AMP. So it has Kai Cenat, Fan. I'm like, these are some of the biggest streamers on Twitch. Their reach is like massive. These people have millions and millions of followers. And what I was telling you about earlier, going out with famous people, like we go out together like quite frequently because they're kind of like my core friend group now too. And we go out together and like, like every like 30 seconds, someone's asking for a picture. Like you can't stand in one place for too long because like, you'll be mobbed. Like
Right.
like as in certain points, it like beats a word like you need security. Like it is like to that level. But this is how my journey started with him. It was 3 years ago now. His assistant reached out to me, and I think going to social media, I think this is perfect for us to talk about because his assistant reached out to me. He DM'd me on Instagram. And it was like, those long Instagram messages you get? Like, this is definitely a scam. Like, it went directly to, like, my, like, unknown inbox. I was like, this is definitely a scam. But how he actually found me, because I asked him later, how he actually found me was he looked up personal trainer on the Instagram search tab, personal trainer, and then the neighborhood that I train people in. And that was my name on Instagram. So because that was my, like, not my actual name of the account, but like the name, like the description, like where people put their name, because I put personal trainer and then the community that I train people in, I popped up first.
Wow.
So I optimized my Instagram to be like searchable. So because I did that, he found me, he reached out to me. What they were going to do is at the time he wasn't doing Twitch. At the time he was doing YouTube. So he was a YouTuber first. So they were going to do a video with like training. Let me see how much I can learn boxing in 7 days, because I used to box. I have a boxing background, and I do boxing for fitness with all my clients. So the goal was like, we're going to do a YouTube video, 7 days to learn how to box. So they initially hired me to train for 7 days. That's it. I was charging $75 at the time. So I was only going to get $525. That's all I was in for. And on day like 2 or 3, he did his first ever Twitch stream. And I was there. I was in the house. We actually trained on the stream. So I was like, technically I was his first guest on a Twitch stream, which is kind of cool. But he said to his audience, like it was his first stream, he wanted to do something big. So he was like, hey, and he's a bigger guy. At this point, he was close to 300 pounds. He had lost some weight already. So he was 340 pounds originally. And he lost some weight, but he was still like probably close to 300. And he had a lot of weight still to lose. And he was like, hey, I'm going to make a bet with you guys, his like Twitch audience, where I'm going to lose 50 pounds. It was January. I'm going to lose 50 pounds by July. So he had 6 months to lose 50 pounds. He was like, if I don't lose this 50 pounds, I'm going to give you guys $100,000. And what he was going to do was they were going to do a transformation with him. He was going to pick the top 10 transformations and give them each $10,000 each.
Wow.
So I'm training him while he's saying this. And then like after like the stream goes off and we're not live anymore, I tell him like, hey, listen, I'm going to train you for the 6 months. You're going to lose the 50 pounds. If you don't, you don't have to pay me. Wow. And so for him, that's the biggest no-brainer in the world, because not only like that's an enticing offer for anybody, but especially when like $100,000 is also on the line. So like not only am I ensuring he's going to lose 50 pounds, I'm also ensuring I'm going to save him $100,000. So, cut to 6 months goes by, he loses the 50 pounds. And then from that forward, I'm training him now. And I trained him for about a year and a half-ish. And then things kind of like fizzled out a little bit. He's busy, he's traveling around. But he reached out to me one day. And okay, wait, let me reverse back. Because during this time that I'm traveling with him, during this time that I'm training him, I am going above and beyond. Like, he needs me for a video, I'm driving at any time. I'm training him at any time. Middle of the night, training him. And literally, I'm going above and beyond. I am doing so much that my mom and my girlfriend at the time were both like, they're like, you're doing too much for this guy. Like, he's taking advantage of you. Like, he's not respecting your time. And like, they just didn't understand that, like, they operated on like a different time frame. Like, they're like nocturnal almost. They're staying up very late. They're sleeping in. But that's just how, like, the nature of their work. That's kind of how they have to be. But the moral of the story is I'm giving so much to him. Literally doing anything. I'm like listening to him. If he says like he needs something, like, I'm showing him the next day with that thing he needed. So I'm delivering like a level of service so beyond what I'm getting paid for. And just over delivering.
How long were you over delivering? Wow. Yeah. Because a lot of people are like, oh, a day or two. Where's my return?
So
right?
When I meet someone new, I know, like, I do things for them right off the get-go. Yeah. And I know in my head is like, okay, this is the start of the next couple of years of me doing things for them. Yeah. Because I know now, like, how long it can take sometimes. And sometimes it's quicker. But sometimes it's not. And you have to be mentally ready to go years into this before seeing anything in return. And guess what? You might never see anything in return from that person. But if you give to everyone, that's when there'll be a few people that the returns are so exponential. There's some quote where it's like, in baseball, you hit a grand slam and you can only max hit 4 runs. But in like business and life and with networking, sometimes you hit a grand slam that'd be like 1 million runs.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
So you just swing the bat. You just give. And the key is I didn't give to him knowing that like I was gonna end up cooking for him, and I didn't know what was gonna come. I kept telling them it's gonna pay off. Like, they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I don't know what it is yet, but it is gonna pay off. Yeah. So we trained for like 1.5 years. Cut to, he tells me things kind of fizzled off a little bit because he was traveling a lot. It was during the summertime. He was traveling a lot. Like I told you, summer's a little bit slower. But he called me out of the blue. He was like, hey, would you consider, and keep in mind, I've been building up this goodwill. Like, and then I get a random phone call from him. Hey, would you consider living with me? Keep in mind, I'm not a chef at this point. I've cooked my whole life. And like, because, you know, when you're healthy, you kind of have to make your meals a lot of times. Yeah. So I've cooked my whole life. My mom used to be a cook. So she kind of taught me how to cook. She used to own a restaurant and she was the main chef of the restaurant. So that's where a lot of my cooking background comes from, learning from her and just being around that growing up. But he was like, hey, would you mind? He doesn't even know if I can cook, but would you mind training me every single day, living with me, and cooking all my meals? And then, so keep in mind, when I said like the $50,000 sale can be easier than the $50 sale, like he's selling me.
Yeah,
he's like,
yeah.
You know, we can do this and we can do that. Like,
right.
It's not like, you know, and I'm like, holy cow. I was like, wait. And I wasn't making that much money at this point. Like, I was making like decent money, like a decent living, but it was like, that was a lot of money. Sure. What he was offering was like a lot of money. And also being an entrepreneur my whole life, never had a job in my life. So I've been training people, like I said, since 13. Yeah. So like, this is what I've been doing my whole life. I've never had consistent revenue. Yeah. Where like I'm his employee, you know. And so I'm like excited, like I'm calling my mom. I'm like, I told you it was gonna pay off. I'm like celebrating. I'm spending money like money is no
Salt Bay.
But then like the next day comes and like I call him and he doesn't answer. And then like a week goes by and I text him and he's like, oh, we'll call tonight. So I'm like staying up by the phone ready for the call. And like 2 months goes by, I am literally depressed. I was so like, ages, because I was so excited for this opportunity. Like, yeah. It would have been so much fun. I know I could help him more because like he's still, at this point, he's lost 50 pounds, but he still has more weight to lose. Like we still have, like, we haven't got past the finish line yet. And I don't know if I'm cooking for him. I know I can definitely like get him to lose his weight 100%. It was bad. It sucked. It was like really like, it was a really like low point for me. Like it really affected me, like probably more than it should have. But I was just so excited about the opportunity and I hadn't even thought about doing something like that. And I was at the point where it's like, I can just like be sad or I can do something. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do something. And like, my big thing is like most people aren't going to get mad at you for doing something for them. So like, if you ever want something, don't keep asking. Just go way out of your way and do something for them. So I don't even call him because like he's busy. Like I don't want to come off like that. He was like ghosting me. He was just busy. Like he's just a busy guy, and he'll even admit this. Horrible communicator. Like to this day, I work for him. He pays me a lot of money, and like I can still barely get him on the phone.
And
so,
that's
like,
kind of normal for this affluent market,
yes,
right?
Definitely, yeah. And especially for like entertainment specifically. Like it's one thing just to be affluent and like do different things, but in entertainment, and we'll talk about the whole Kevin Hart, cooking for Kevin Hart. Like it's not an easy thing to do. Yes. People like, it's fun to say like, oh yeah, I cook for Kevin Hart. Yeah. But in practice, like I'll give you some Kevin Hart stories. Right. We'll talk about what cooking for Kevin Hart is really like. Yeah. And like I'm just doing it here and there when he's in town. Sure. So like it's a lot. It's a lot. But going back to the story. So I was like, I can just sit here and be sad. Because I was sad. Or I can actually like do something. And I was like, you know what? Like, no one's ever going to get mad at you for doing something for them. So I didn't reach out to him because I couldn't get in contact with him, which I barely am ever able to do. But I have his assistant's number, the one that reached out to me initially for the 7 days of training. So I called him. I said, hey, I didn't tell him that like the agent didn't know. I was like, hey, I have some meals for agent. What time would be best for me to drop them off? That's all I said to him. Yeah. He was like, oh, you can come on, on Thursday. I was like, okay, great. I'll be there on Thursday. And then so I made meals.
Without being asked.
Drove 45 minutes to his house. And I call his assistant and I'm like, hey, I'm here with the meals that we talked about. He was like, oh, I forgot. Keep in mind, this is like a gated, not community, but gated house. You need a code. This is a gated house. Right. So like, and they had just got this house where they had just moved. So that's why they were 45 minutes away. Because they weren't in the community that I was anymore. Like now I'm driving to them. They've moved. I've never been to this house before. There's a gate. So he was like, oh man, I forgot. He was like, I'm on this side of town. I'm not going to be able to make it. I'm really sorry. I was like, okay, no problem. As I hung up. And I had like two options. I can just like go home. Or I could break into their house.
Yeah.
So not literally break into their house, but like, I broke into their house.
Right.
So luckily they didn't have security at this point. They do now have armed security. So like this would not go very well if I tried this today. But back then they did not have armed security yet. So the gate is closed. I literally like pry the gate open just enough to like shimmy my body through the gate. And I literally go into the gate, go into the house, I had been there like once or twice. So I had been there before. So I knew where his room was.
Yeah.
So go into the house, go in his room, and he's in the shower. He's like, hello? I was like, it's Chris. He was like, oh, hey, what's up? I was like, he was like, just give me a minute. So I literally wait for him to like finish his shower. I'm like sitting in his room with these meals. I just like basically essentially broke into their house. Like everyone knows me, so like it was okay.
But I'm sure it was jarring for him, like, oh shoot, somebody's in my house.
But honestly, like the way that, gotta keep in mind, this is a house with 5 content creators.
Oh, yes.
So this is not a normal house.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I would have necessarily done this. Like, it's not, what I did wasn't socially acceptable, like normal people's terms.
Right.
But in this house, so many people coming in and out. It was kind of like, it wasn't a crazy thing. It definitely like surprised him.
It wasn't as weird though.
But it wasn't, no. So for him, it wasn't as jarring.
Yeah.
As like, I mean, a normal person would be like, what the hell? Like,
right.
Call the cops.
Yeah.
But he knew me for a long time. Keep in mind, I built so much goodwill with him that like it wasn't really that. At first he was like, "Hey," and then like I was like, "Oh, I got some meals for you." He said, "Oh man, thank you," because obviously he told me he needed someone to cook for him. Yeah. So like, I give him the meals, and he like sits down and he's like, "Listen, man," he was like, "I know we talked on the phone a couple months ago," and he was like, I don't need that because I'm traveling so much. Like someone living with me, someone training me every day, someone cooking all my meals. He was like, I'm just traveling too much to that it wouldn't be worth it for him to like have all of that. He was like, what I really just need is a private chef. And I was like, okay. He was like, would you want to do that? I was like, yeah. I started that day. Literally from that day till now, I've been cooking for him nonstop.
Wow.
So that's how I met him. That's how I literally built up so much goodwill to where like it kind of just fell in my lap, this opportunity. I still worked hard for it, but I think the biggest takeaway from that story is like I gave and gave and gave. I was spending money out of my pocket, time, like I gave to him more than I've ever given to anyone in my life.
And I think something else to note here is that little period, that 2-month window where you felt like you got ghosted and you're like, wait, you said you were going to do this. What's going, and it's like basically he doesn't realize how big of a deal it was to you. Right. And I think that's just an entrepreneur thing. It's like, we normally don't showcase how big of a deal certain deals might be to, in that way, but you feel it when something's a level up for you, where you're excited about it, you're whatever. And so I know that feeling you're talking about where it's just like, oh, what happened? What did I do? Did something go wrong? Right. So walk me through how because obviously it was you getting into the house. Then it was like almost like you being there in person or you having gotten that connect again made the conversation flow again, right? Where like the deal picked right back up where it was left off. And I think that part is something that a lot of people like, they don't follow up. They don't, like, I know for me, my dream internship, my dream job, like things that I got from my very first podcast too would never have happened, like especially that dream internship, if I didn't follow up, because I was like the person who gave me the internship, like they didn't show up the first time, right? They forgot that we had the thing, right? A lot of people, to even actually agree to it, there was several weeks of follow-ups, and then this, kind of like no response for 2 weeks, follow up again. And most people would just feel like, oh, I'm being too annoying, I'm whatever.
No. Yeah. Listen, be annoying.
Yeah.
Because like, if anything, you're not going to get it anyway.
Right.
So you got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, you also have to put yourself in someone else's shoes. And it's hard because you're not in their shoes. But people are busy. People have so many things going on. Like, obviously, that's something he still wanted. Obviously, he bought it that day. So, like, obviously, something he still wanted. But guess what? He had, like, 50 million things he was taking care of. Yeah. On top of his work, which they work. I mean, these guys... Like, people think like streamers, like, oh, it's an easy job. You just sit in front of a camera. These guys work honestly harder than almost anyone I've ever met.
A lot of pre-production work.
Yeah. And then it just like, and just being on for hours and hours, 12 hours. Sometimes they stream for like, there's a guy in the house. His name's Cenat. He's the biggest Twitch streamer. And he'll do like month-long streams.
Wow.
Like a month without... Like, he's streaming when he sleeps. He's streaming when he's awake, when he's eating. Like, no matter what he's doing, he's on camera, which is intense.
Yeah.
Like, and that's like, so all that to be said is like, there's so much going on in people's minds and their lives. People are busy. Yeah. And honestly, to be quite frank, you're not a priority. Like, especially if you haven't delivered a lot of value yet, like you haven't made that connection yet, you're not a priority. They don't know you. Like, you can't care about everyone in the world. Because, like, you just care about people in your circle that you know. Like, and there's just human nature. Like, there's too many people to care about everybody. And especially when you're really busy. I think just, like, keeping in mind, trying to put yourself in their shoes. Like, they're busy. You're not annoying them. You're reminding them. Like, even if you reach out to them every single day, at a certain point, like, they might only see it, like, once or twice a week. Because they're not going to see every single outreach. And if you really want something, if you really, really want it, like, it's on you. It's not on them.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they already have hundreds and hundreds or maybe thousands of DMs coming on 5 different channels where it's like, it's already costly time-wise for them to go in and respond or to entertain certain things, to where you're in skimming mode. You're trying to just skim what's important, what's not.
And also, so think about it like this. Like, 2 things I want to add to that. Number 1, I want to define follow-up. Because following up is not texting them, hey, I'm just following up.
Yes.
Following up is delivering value. So following up is not even asking them what they need, but you being in their shoes enough to where it's like, hey, like, I know you probably need this, so I made it for you already. Here you go. You didn't even ask for anything. Like, I gave him the meals. I wouldn't be like, hey, now can you pay me? Like, no. Like, I gave him the meals and we just had a conversation that he brought up. So following up is delivering value. Following up is not just wasting their time by just texting them or, giving them. Another thing is like skim mode. When I was texting him and when I was calling him, he was in skim mode. So what I have to do is I need to differentiate myself. I need to take from off the phone to in person. And I put myself actually there. And you can do that in different ways, but maybe if everyone is texting like a big influencer or DMing a big influencer, maybe you like get in contact with their assistant, add value to them, build a connection with them, and then get their assistant to the point where maybe after a long time you deliver value to them, they tell their boss like, hey, this guy. So their assistant's only coming to them about one person. But there's millions of people or hundreds of people DMing them. So you have to take yourself out of that pack to actually stick out. Because you can send the perfect DM. You still probably won't get a response. There's just so many people that are DMing them that is, so you have to be strategic and you have to deliver with value. And that's like the key to following up. And I've done that. Like we can talk for days about doing that kind of stuff and kind of being creative with things.
Okay, so you just dropped, I think, a huge example of what it's like when you put into the goodwill bank, right? And it kind of actually works out and comes back to you in some way. What are some other situations or other people where that kind of happened and you were like, whoa, I didn't expect that?
Yeah. It's funny you say like goodwill bank because that is actually like the currency that I optimize for right now. So like my currency that I'm optimizing for is not money. Yeah. I'm optimizing for goodwill now. And because I've been doing that for a couple of years now, the money's coming. And I'll keep optimizing for goodwill and even more money will come. And I just want to touch on right before we go into the next part. I was only supposed to get $525.
Yeah, you're right. That was a big part of this.
All the goodwill that I built up, he's given me so far, this is just to date, this is not even like future, like close to $100,000. Yeah. So I turned from goodwill and goodwill only. I didn't invest a bunch of money into this. I turned $525 to, we're going to say upwards because it will be upwards of $100,000. That is like a 200
insane, yeah,
2,000% like return on investment.
Tell me this, if you could put a numerical value on how much money you invested, whether it was time that you're also calculating or the gas money, the free meals, the grocery shopping, how much money do you think you invested into that relationship before you got back that 50 or 100 that, is now there?
I'd probably say like, if I was like give myself a wage for those hours spent, the money spent, gas, all that kind of stuff, only a couple $1,000s realistically. Because like doing things for someone is not a huge, like, it's not that big of a time commitment. And like, it's just doing something, you spend 1 hour for someone or just a few hours for someone, it's so outside of the norm. Yes, like flying here was very easy. Yeah. Flying back, I'm only going to be gone from Atlanta for 12 hours. Yeah. It didn't take that much time for me to actually be here and do something. Mm-hmm. But the return you get from that is so exponential. I mean, there's no other place where you could turn $525 into $100,000
right
in 2 years.
Yes. Yeah. That's a great point.
There's no other way you can do that. The highest leverage thing you can do is build goodwill with people. And I would like to say the caveat of with the right people, but you don't know who the right people are. So you have to do it to everyone. Yeah. There's no way to know before if it's the right person or not. You only know in hindsight. And hindsight is years down the road. You just have to accept that there are some people that are going to take advantage of you. There 100% are. There's going to be. It's not, happy-go-lucky, it works every single time. I've done things with people and people have taken advantage of me. Okay, cool. That is the price of admission for this kind of success. And I'm not going to, some people what you cannot do is you can't get burned and scared to touch anything ever again.
That's a good way to put it.
Because
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I'm never gonna do. And I have friends personally that like, I talk to and I try to help, like, because they've helped people in the past and they've gotten burned, and it's like they'll never touch anything again, and they just wear gloves on, and they'll never get like the feeling of like touching sand, like how good it can feel to actually touch something that's worth touching, because they got burned in that stove 5 years ago. So you just accept, like, you touch everything, you're gonna get burned a few times. But like that sand is so worth it. And also, like, you have to give from a place of like, not like, oh, this is all gonna work. I'm not like giving like, oh, I'm like just gonna try to get something soon. Like, I'm just building up my goodwill so I can just ask for something. No. You have to actually like enjoy doing it. You have to give from like, honestly, from like your heart. You have to give from a good spot, and people can tell. There's a big difference between just giving, just like, oh, very transactional, versus actually like putting thought and effort into something and really like giving. And that's the difference between like, hey, what can I do for you? Or like, hey, I did this for you. Like, I put myself in your head. And going to answer your question, finally, a great example of building goodwill with someone is my business mentor. I mean, he is literally like the best business mentor that money could buy. He's amazing. His name is Jason Phillips. And I met him at an in-person event that he held a couple years ago. He's done a few since, and I've been to every one. But it's called Coaching Con. He did 3. They're not doing them anymore. But they were the best. It was like perfect for me. At this point, I had nothing about business. Luckily, a couple weeks prior to this, I listened to a podcast, the Iced Coffee Hour.
Oh, yeah.
And it was Alex Hormozy was the guest.
Yep.
And I listened to the Iced Coffee Hour for like a year or two, because I just love like the finance. I was getting into like finance stuff and just like money and saving and investing. And I didn't have that much money, but but I was listening to that kind of stuff. And Alex Hormozy talked, and I was like, what the hell is he talking about? Because he's talking about fitness, the space I'm in, but he's also talking about making hundreds and tens of millions of dollars. And I just couldn't even, I'm so poor at this point where it's like, I'm living at my girlfriend's mom's house. And not even in the house, in the trailer outside of the house.
Right.
100 square feet, 2 people. Okay, so like, I'm like as poor could be. And I just can't even like wrap my head around like what he's talking about. I mean, I decided I wanted to make more money. And in my head, to make more money wasn't what I was doing, was I have to do something else. So I was like, you know what? What I have to do is I need to do something online on top of me doing something in person, because I want to get different revenue streams. That's how you make money. You got to get different revenue streams. It's like, okay, I got this. So it's like, I'm going to get certified to do nutrition. So I called NCI, Nutrition Coaching Institute. That's Jason Phillips' nutrition coaching business. So they certify you and they teach you how to be a nutrition coach and how to actually apply the nutrition coaching. It's not just like, these are macros and these are calories.
That's the best part of Jason's stuff in general.
Literally, it teaches you how to actually apply it in real life scenarios, how to actually make change in someone, not just like, okay, here are your macros, like, good luck, So I was like, okay, this is awesome. I'm the sales guy on the phone. He was like, hey, we're having this in-person conference in 3 weeks. And, there's going to be speakers. Alex Hormozy is going to be speaking there. And I was like, he listed out like 5 people, but like the only one I knew was Alex Hormozy. Because I know nothing about business. I know nothing about this world. I was like, Alex Hormozy is going to be there. I was like, oh man, when is it? And then like, what was the exact dates? And he told me the exact dates. I was like, man, I'm the biggest Yankee fan in the world.
Okay, yeah.
And the conference was on the same day as opening day. And I was going to fly to New York to go see opening day.
Yeah.
And I was like, because keep in mind, I don't know the value in like learning business. I'm so detached from what I am now. Like, I knew nothing about I'm like, and it was like, that's $500. It's like, that's a lot. I just spent $1,000 on this nutrition certification. Like, I'm broke. That was on a credit card. And now it's like, I'm going to put another $500. And the funny thing is though, and so many, like, it's funny because I never thought about this until right now, but I will be so quick to tell someone this if someone told me this in person. Keep in mind, I'm like debating if I'm gonna spend the $500 to go for this conference, but I'm perfectly willing to go to opening day.
Yeah.
Like the thing that's will definitely never make me $1. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't know. But it's expensive.
Right.
But then the opposite. The thing that's never gonna make me $1, I'm like, oh yeah, let's do it. But the thing that could actually change the trajectory of my life and me investing in my knowledge and my business knowledge and being able to actually do the things and have the impact that I want to do, I'm like, oh, it's a little pricey. Like, it's so stupid. Luckily, my girlfriend at the time talked some sense into me. She was like, what are you talking about? She was like, you're going. She didn't give me a choice. She was like, you're going. She was like, opening day happens every single year. She was like, you need to go to this conference. So luckily, I listened to her and I went to the conference. And I can say definitely, like, going to that conference changed the trajectory of my life. I'm now, like, business is my biggest passion. Like, I love cooking. I love training people. But at the end of the day, like, I'm a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. And I just love everything about business. Yeah. And that's really when I was eating everything up at that conference. Literally, it's like emails. Oh, you would send emails to people.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything. Like, what's a lead? I knew nothing.
Yeah.
I literally knew nothing. Like, I couldn't tell you how little I knew. I knew nothing at all. So everything was new to me. Every speaker was a genius. Like, and Jason, obviously, like, he was there and he was someone, he put together the event. He was someone that I looked up to, He idolized in a way, which is not the best. Like, I don't think you should idolize people, but I think we can touch on this a little bit later, but I think I've been very influenced in my life. That's something I'm trying to start thinking for my own. Yeah. And not be so influenced. It's easy to be influenced, especially with like social media, all these gurus, Alex Hormozi is like, oh, I got to do this. I need to make $100 million. Right. That's the only thing that's going to make me happy. Yeah. There's a lot that comes with that kind of stuff. And I've seen the other side of that. Yeah. So like, there's a lot of sacrifices that need to be made. So I'm trying to, not be as influenced, but that's my little tangent. But
well, I think what you're speaking on is something I've experienced recently too, which is like realizing that it's almost about like defining your own code, like your own set of values, your own, like getting clear on your mission. At first, it feels like you're getting a feel for other people's missions to see where you fit and what makes sense and what you resonate with. But at a certain point, you realize like, if I don't define the 10, 20 things that are very important to me, all day somebody's trying to convince me that this is important, that's important, this is important. And it's like, I know exactly what you're talking about because I basically trusted other people's opinions, especially ones who knew way more than I did or were way more famous. You just
kind of adopt their like way of life and their mindset. And to the point where like, if you met me like a year ago, like I was like a mini Alex Hormozi. Like I would just like, literally what I was saying was like what he would say verbatim. Like it was bad. It was unhealthy. What I like about Jason, and like he's been my mentor now for a little bit over a year, is whatever, like if you come to Jason, you ask him a business question, the first thing he's going to ask you is, what do you want? Because you need that context. If you're going to give someone advice, there's so many business coaches that like, they're probably good intentioned. I don't think anyone has bad intentions, but you're giving them advice with no context. Like, how much free time do they want? How much money do they really need? Not like want, like, oh, $100 million. Okay, that's such an arbitrary number. And there's nothing against Alex Hormozi at all. I mean, that's what he wants to do. And I think for him, honestly, I think he probably just likes the chase of it all, which is like, and I understand that. But at a certain point, it's like, you're sacrificing a lot for that chase. And he's willing to do that. And that's, for him, that's what he wants to do. That's what he chooses to do. But for other people, they might want like a family. They want, they might want other things. They might want hobbies. They might want things that he doesn't have. He doesn't have it all. He's sacrificed everything for this one thing. And Jason is all about happiness and profit. Because the thing is, like, you can have this massive. I went to a conference a couple months ago. I met a guy. He owns a gym. It was Gym Con. He owns a gym. He makes $72,000 a month revenue. His gym brings in. And he loses $3,000 a month.
Loses on 3.
So no. Like he makes no money and
he loses three. Oh, yeah.
So he's losing,
right.
He loses $36,000 a year.
Wow.
And he's bringing in $72,000. So like, you have to optimize for A, what you want, and B, actually profiting. There's so many businesses that make millions of dollars, but then like the business owner only takes home like $100,000. You get a job that's much less stressful for $100,000 than owning $1 million business or multi-million-dollar business. And that's where like Jason teaches like, how are you going to maximize A, what you want, and profiting off of that. It doesn't matter how much you take home. No, it doesn't matter how much you bring in. It's how much you actually take home. And like making sure like it's not an arbitrary number. Like, where do you want to live? What does that house look like? How much is that? Where do you want to drive? What vacations do you want to go on? Really, like he has an exercise where you like map out like your perfect day, and like let's make your business like your perfect day. Like I told him like, listen, I love to travel. I really want to travel. He was like, during the summertime and during December, it's slow for you, right? He was like, yeah. He was like, so why don't you make it to where you can travel in those months? I was like, oh my God.
You never entertained that before.
I was like, it's so funny how it's like, it's so simple, but it's not. Like, you don't think about it. So you can make your business around what you want. What life do you want? Like, if you wanted, like, I want to travel, but I don't need to travel every single day of the year. But if you do want to travel every single day of the year, then you're not going to be an in-person personal trainer. So you have to make your business around your life, not your life around your business. Yeah. And the thing is, old me would have heard that and be like, oh, but then you're not going to make as much money. You can make just as much money. Yeah. You don't have to sacrifice how much money you make. You really don't. Yeah. I promise you. Like, I'm making more money I've ever made in my life. Yeah. And I can be here today.
Yeah.
I don't have to cook. I don't have to train people. I've outsourced everything. I can be where I want to be. I can train who I want to train with. I get to choose everything. I get to choose how I spend every second of my day. No one tells me what to do. I literally have the freedom. I don't worry about money. Like, it is amazing. And I'm not even making that much money. But I have all my personal expenses covered. Yeah. And I'm still going to grow the business. I'm still going to make more because it's not just about me. Yeah. I'm at the point where it's like, my goal is not to take care of me. My goal is to take care of the people I love. Mm-hmm. And that's my big thing. It's like, I want to be able to, I can't fix everyone's problems, but I can fix everyone's money problems. Yeah. So like, if I love you, I want you to no longer have money problems because I can cover that for you. Yeah. So that's like my big thing. And that's how I want to be able to provide. And obviously in other ways too, like emotionally and like relationships. But that's a big thing for me. That's my biggest motivator to make money. I always say is like, I want to, and this is from the beginning, I want to make a lot of money helping people and spend that money helping people. Because that's what makes me happy. And part of it is, I'm not like the perfect, like I'm not a saint. Like, it just makes me happy. Like, I'm just doing something that naturally like brings me the most joy. Like, doing things for people just brings me the most joy. My success comes from that. People know that. My clients know that. People that know, my friends know that. And like, I'm the most grateful person in the world. Like, you will probably never meet someone that gives more and is more grateful than me. Honestly. Yeah. And like, I even told one of my employees, like, the best investment you can do is like, give me your all. Because like, if you give me your all, I will like do whatever I can for you. Like, literally, like, you want this, boom. You want, even if it's not like, doesn't make like business sense, or like, even if it cuts into like margin, like, you want this, cool, boom, boom. Like, I'm gonna take care of you. Like, you take care of me, I'm gonna far surpass take care of you. Going back to Jason, we kind of got off track a little bit, but so at this point, it's like, I'm idolizing Jason. I'm like, this guy's like a god, like, because he put together this whole thing, and like, he's speaking and like, he's making it sound so easy. I'm like, holy cow, like, I gotta work with this guy. Right. So I bought his like intro program, and keep in mind, at this point, I'm like, if I need to make money, I need to diversify my income and become an online nutrition coach. So I bought his intro program to become an online nutrition coach. So now I have my certification, so I know how to train people. Now I have my coaching, kind of like the intro program I bought to become a nutrition coaching, like to create that business. And I did that for a little bit and it was cool. And when I say did that for a little bit, like entertained it. I wasn't really putting in work. Yeah. I was kind of just like, this is super cool. And then it's like, okay, this is what you got to do. Oh, it's work. I was thinking like, I'm just going to like type a little thing on my computer and the money would just come pouring in. Right. Like, oh, I have to work. I was like, I should make a course. Yeah. So then I go buy a program, and keep in mind, these programs are like pricey. These are not like, and I'm broke. Sure. For like full transparency, I'm broke at this time. And I'm like, okay, I gotta make a course. So I buy the program to make a course. Like they're gonna teach me how to make a course. I just got to record a couple videos. I like post it all up, and the money comes just pouring in. I was like, this is what I gotta do. And then I was like, man, this is work too. I was like, I thought this was going to be easier. This is not. There's things I got to do. I was like, I should start a marketing agency. Because all you got to do is like just put some ads up from people, make some copy. I'm like, I can do this. I've done ads before. Like, I can do this. So then I buy a very expensive multi-$1,000 course on that. And then I get to the point where it's like, okay, like I'm not the vehicle for me getting to I'm looking for a vehicle to get to success. But it's not the vehicle that's the problem. It's me. At this point, I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on all these ancillary courses that I don't need. I never needed. And I was getting excited and buying things, and because that was the dopamine I was getting instead of actually putting in the work. And I was like, you know what? Like, forget the course, forget the online nutrition coaching, which I do nutrition coaching, but it is in person with my clients. Forget the agency, forget all that other stuff. I'm just going to double down on what I'm doing now. And at this point, now we're kind of a year down the road. So I met Jason. He was this amazing guy. I bought his course, but I also bought a bunch of other courses. And like, there was nothing wrong with any of the courses. There was something wrong with me. Because the courses only work if you do. There's no magic. They're not saying like, hey, just buy my course and instantly you have a business. Yeah. Like, no. You have to actually do what they tell you to do. And I wasn't doing it. And the next coaching con comes around. And honestly, I didn't even want to go. I truly didn't want to go. Because it's like, I feel like I failed. Now I'm in debt. now I'm $30,000 in debt. Like I owe credit cards money. And like, it's not good. Like I'm not in a good spot. I'm not making any more money. And I'm like, I don't want to go. But I had a friend group I developed that I met there. We had stayed in contact the whole time. And like, I did want to go, but I didn't want to go. So I decided to go. It's the word. I give up opening day again because it always lines up with opening day.
That's hilarious.
So I had to go open. So like, I haven't been to Yankees opening day in 3 years because coaching con. I'm giving up a lot over here. But so I go, and then halfway through the conference, Jason was like, hey, whoever buys the first ticket for next year's conference, I will give you a free day with me. And he does these things called one days where they're very intimate. You come to his home and it's you and a couple other people, and he'll like do a deep dive into your business and kind of give you like a 90-day game plan for the next 90 days. So literally he's talking. He was like, nobody stand up yet. He kept talking about how valuable this is. As he's talking, I got up. He told me not to get up. I didn't care. I was getting up. I got up. I got my credit card. I paid the ticket. And then literally as he keeps like pitching how like valuable this giveaway is, the guy that's like in the back is like, hey, someone bought it already. So basically that's how I got introduced to like meeting Jason, because now I'm coming to his house. Yeah. So going back to like adding the value, by the time I bought that ticket, he had done a presentation for like an hour. I didn't listen to a word he said that hour presentation. In my head the whole time, I just bought this ticket. I'm going to this guy's house in a month. How do I deliver value? Do I buy him something? It's like, what do I buy Jason? Like, right. There's nothing that I can't buy Jason anything. Jason buys whatever he wants. Yeah. Like, he's good with that. Right. So it's like, what do I do? Well, during his presentation, he started talking about his dad. And his dad actually passed away right before the first coaching con. My dad passed away a few months before that. Wow. So keep in mind, I'm thinking like, how do I add value? How do I add value? How do I add value? And then he starts talking about his dad, and he talks about him and his dad bonded over golf. And me and my dad bonded over the Yankees. I became a Yankee fan because my dad's a diehard Yankee fan. I've gone to every Yankee playoff game since COVID. So like, and that's going back to having the freedom of your business, like I'm able to do that because I structure my business in a way that I can do that. But I knew that it's like, I don't know what. And my first thought was like, I don't know what I'm going to do for him, but it has to do with his dad because we have that shared bond of like, we're kind of still going through that. I mean, it had been like a little bit over a year removed, but like you're still going through that. You're like in the thick of it. So my idea was when I get older and I buy a home, I want to like have like a Yankee man cave. And I want like one of the walls, I want to get someone to paint a mural of like me and my dad like at Yankee Stadium. So that's like a big thing that I like looking forward to doing in the future. But I was like, okay, what can I do? Something like that. And I can make that for Jason. Not me actually make it, but I can pay someone to make it. I'm not an artist. But I was like, okay. In my head, I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have Jason playing golf, because this is what they bonded over, golf. Jason playing golf. His dad looking over him in the clouds, smiling.
Wow.
So keep on. This is all during a 1 hour presentation. We stand up. I tell my buddies that I came with that I met from the last year. And I was like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And they kind of looked at me like, when did you come up with that? Like, what are you talking about? Like, that's crazy. Like, they're like, you're going to make him cry. But, so like immediately, like that night, like keep in mind, the conference is not even over. Like this is day 2 or 3 of the conference. That night, I'm not thinking about the conference. I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm thinking about how am I going to get this done for Jason? So I literally like search up. I was looking on like Fiverr, different artists. So like I just needed someone to make this, what was in my head, I needed them to make it real. So basically I hired someone. I hired a few different people because it was hard. Fiverr's not So I hired a few different people, a few different price points to just like figure out, how to make this like reality. So finally someone made it and it looked amazing, looked perfect. And now the next step was like, keep in mind, this is all on the same night. Next step is like, okay, how am I going to like, this can't be lame. It can't be just on a little like, it has to be like big and it has to look really nice. Cause like if he's gonna put it in his house, he has a nice house.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It has to match the niceness
Right.
of the house.
Yep.
So like I was like, okay. So I found the company that they do like glass frames, but like the whole thing is glass. So like the picture is in the glass frame, and you like put it on a wall. So then like I pay for that. It's not cheap. These things are not cheap. So like we're talking about actually me coming out of my pocket, So also, keep in mind, $30,000 in debt. Paid $1,500 for the next year because it was a VIP ticket. Paid $1,500 for next year's ticket to get access to him for this one day. So like $30,000 in debt. Paid another $1,500 to now be more in debt. Now I'm paying a couple $100 to get all this done. So like I'm in a hole. And like this is not like financial advice.
Right, but it's
Yeah.
important to highlight
Yeah.
because it shows you how much harder it was for you to still choose to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? It wasn't just like, oh, I have, thousands of dollars in
Just
profit this
that,
month.
yeah,
No big
yeah,
deal, right?
Yeah. No, this was a lot of money for me. But I knew the importance of making connection with him. And I knew that. And also like I know that's something that I like. If someone did that for me, I was like, holy cow. Because keep in mind, like, I'm not just giving from a place of like, I didn't know what was going to come from it. I didn't know what I know Jason's a good person to know and be friends with, but I didn't know what the benefit of that was actually going to come to be. So I had this class. It finally came in the mail a couple weeks later at my house. Live in Atlanta. Jason lives in like the DC area. I was like terrified to like, it's too big. I can't put it in a suitcase. How am I going to get it to him? Well, I'm going to drive because it's the only way I can get it to him safely. So like, I couldn't fly with it. I really couldn't. I tried. I was like, I couldn't trust it. I was like, I have to. So I drove up and then I see him and I come to his house and I'm like nervous because I'm like, how do you like give this to someone? Like, I was kind of hoping like someone just let me in and I was able to like put it somewhere because like it's kind of weird, just like, hey, nice to meet you. Here you go. Here's this very like personal thing I made for you. But luckily, his girlfriend, Brittany, she opened the door and it was my first time ever meeting her, and she's amazing. She was like, hey, come in, you can just sit on the couch. Like he was in a meeting. I was like, perfect. It was perfect. Because I had a couple minutes to set up. So like I unboxed it because it was all boxed and wrapped because it's glass. And then I just literally put it on his couch. And I just kind of let it there and just let him like see it. And then like Brittany saw it first. She was like, oh my God. She was like, that is amazing. She was like, that was so nice of you. And then like, long story short, he saw it that day, and he like really, really appreciated it. He sent it to his mom. She really, really appreciated it. And it was like instantly from that day forward, like me and Jason were going to be friends. Yeah. Like it was a very easy, like it was like I got his number that very day, and we were going to stay connected. A couple months later at another event, not coaching comp, but another event he'd hosted just for like nutrition coaching. Keep in mind, this is just like nutrition coaching. This is just learning about nutrition coaching. This is not like a business event. He's not selling anything. Like he's not pitching anything. But I decided I wanted to join his program at that event because I'm like, I had been buying the one days. I bought a couple one days, and the one days were a couple $1,000s each day. So like I'm already investing with him. I'm actually starting to execute a little bit. But my biggest concern joining this program was like, I spent so much money and I'm not executing. And it's not that I don't believe in his program. I didn't believe in myself. Yeah. And he told me, he was like, listen, he was like, at the end of the day, he was like, you got to choose if you want to keep being that person. And then he kind of just left me at that. Like he wasn't pushing me. He was like, listen, this is up to you. Like you just got to decide, like, do you want to keep being that person? And I was like, oh shit. So I invested in his program, in his high ticket program where it's very hands-on. You get access to him. We were kind of friends already, so I kind of already had access to him. But like, you call him anytime, you text him anytime. He's like 24/7. Jason's in your pocket, and you've been to one of the fly-ins. Yeah. They have fly-ins every single month that you come in person every single month for 2 days. They help you with your business. They give you all the skills you need. Like it is amazing.
Very talented group of people.
Yes, yeah. Definitely. So I joined this program, and I knew like, during the program, it's like, I want to keep delivering value. Like, how do I keep delivering? So the next year of coaching kind of comes by, and I know he's very particular on what he eats. And now I'm a chef. So I text him and Brittany. I was like, hey, like, do you guys want me to like, cook for you guys while you guys are doing coaching con? Like, and keep in mind, this is the conference I paid $1,500 to go to. Now, my main priority of this conference is not enjoying the conference and learning. Yeah, I did enjoy the conference. I did learn a lot. Yes. But I was like missing speakers to drive to my Airbnb, to cook the food that I purchased, and like I'm not letting them pay. Yeah. So like because the thing is, also when you're building goodwill, and this is a good like little side note, sometimes it's better to do things for free and make it for free than to charge a little bit, because if you charge a little bit, no goodwill added. If you charge nothing, goodwill is added. Even if it's only a couple bucks. Yeah. Like food, I probably spent food in that weekend, maybe like $200. It wasn't a lot of money on food. But the goodwill that was built from that, literally I'm cooking all their meals, so they don't have to worry about food. The whole conference, and they're running everything. And this is like a 500-600 person, maybe even more conference. This is a big deal. They have like Ed Milet speaking. They have like big speakers, big deal. They have a lot of stress. Like Brittany's the manager, like she's managing the whole she does the in-person conferences. And then Jason's obviously like the main guy and like speaking every single day. There's a lot that's going on with them. So I took food off their plate, and I didn't ask them like, hey, what can I do during coaching to help you guys out? They're not going to, I'm making them think of something. They're not going to ask me that. Yeah. I put myself in their shoes and be like, I know they're particular about their food, and I know they're going to be very busy. So let me just cook for them. So I cooked for them. I sent them a menu, what they wanted. I made it very tailored to them. That was another instance of me adding goodwill. There's been little things in between. I'm just trying to think of the big things I did to add goodwill. And like, keep in mind, I don't know. I'm already paying this guy lots of money. Yeah. Like, I don't know what's going to come out of this. Like, I already have access to him. I have full access to him. Like, there's not much that like technically you could say there's not much goodwill technically that would get me at this point. because I have everything that I need from him. Like when you're in his, it's called the network. And when it's called network for a reason, because we met through this network. You have access. Anyone Jason knows, you now have access to because you're in the network. So like, there's not much for me to get out of adding this goodwill other than I wanted to. And I was like, it might work out. Like something may come from it. And another reason is the biggest thing I like about Jason is he's like me. Like me and Jason, like we're such good friends. We would like run through a brick wall for each other. Like I know if I call Jason right now asking for a favor, there's almost nothing he would say no to, and it's vice versa. And we have that relationship because we're the same way. And that's like the best thing is finding those like-minded people. So I'm just trying to add value where I can add value. For Christmas, I get some hoodies made, some hats made, my logo, some boxing gloves, put in some gift cards for like free sessions and like a nice handwritten card. I'm just trying to add value as much as I can. Well, cut to a couple weeks ago. He's a big golfer. We talked about golf. He has a big golf tournament coming up in a couple weeks, and he needs to optimize his nutrition. So we start talking, and I was like, listen, like the tournament's in 6 weeks, and you're trying to optimize your nutrition. What I'll do is I will fly up to you 1 day a week, cook all your meals for the week, and then fly back. Boom, boom, for the next 6 weeks. And now he's actually paying me to do that. Wow. So it's kind of crazy because I never thought, because keep in mind, a lot of people like that I'm cooking for have like fitness goals, and like Jason was like, he used to be a fitness model. Like he has no like weight to lose. He's not trying to optimize for anything like that. So I never saw it in my head as like he could potentially be a client. But because he's optimizing for this specific tournament, it kind of popped up. So the point is, you never know what it's going to lead to. Like I didn't know I was going to cook for agent. I wasn't even thinking about cooking professionally at the time. I didn't know Jason was ever going to be a client. I didn't do all those things. I'm like, one day I'm going to cook for Jason. Like my friends at that conference were even like, why are you cooking for him? Like, what are you trying to get? Right. I was like, no. I was like, I'm just trying to like add value to him. Because guess what? That whole conference, all those people that showed up, those hundreds of people, everyone went to that conference is like, how am I going to give value? I'm the only one in that conference that was like, how am I going to give Jason value? Right. And that's the difference. And that's the mindset you need to have. Not how am I going to get it, but how am I going to give it? When you want to network with someone, you got to figure out, what can I do for them? Like, what can I do for them that is actually going to help them? Not like half help them, not like fake help them, but it's really going to help them. So
there's so much involved in that, because I think that Jason, to me even, right? Like he's somebody who embodies all of these people that you fought, like Hermosi and all of them, right? They're connected, right? And he understands his stuff, and he's giving you access to a more filtered down and boots on the ground version of all the people that you kind of see, right? It's like all the things you like about Hermosi, all the things you like about some of the other people you follow. It's the perfect blend where it's worth highlighting. Like, how did you get in the door with somebody like him, So Kevin Hart, that when I texted you, you were actively cooking a meal for him. How did you get connected with Kev in the first place? I'm sure that is a story in and of itself.
Oh, it's a story. So it's funny because like going back into like what I got from over delivering to the streamer agent, like, yes, I got like that money over the time of working with him, but also the connections. That house, the streamer house, I mean, I've met like the who's who. Like you name someone, especially like in music and acting, I've probably met them. They probably, Nicki Minaj, T-Pain, like the list goes on and on. Wow. So Kevin Hart, this was a few months back now. Kevin Hart, I was told was going to be at the house. So like me being who I am, no one asked me to do this. Me being who I am. And I did this, and I wanted it to be very clear. I did this from pure of like, I just want to deliver to someone that would be really cool to deliver to. Not, I want to meet Kevin Hart. Or like, I knew I was going to see him. I see everyone. I'm in the kitchen. The kitchen's open to the living room. I know like anyone comes in, I'm going to meet them. So it's not just about just meeting Kevin Hart. I was like, you know what? I know Kevin Hart is a big health guy. So I know he's going to want healthy food. I also know there's no healthy options in this house outside of me. So I was like, well, I'm going to come early. I usually come late in the afternoon because remember I told you their schedule is so crazy. So I usually come late in the afternoon, like 8, 9, 10 p.m. I come pretty late to cook. But I decided to come early that day because I was like, I'm going to cook for Kevin. Now, the question is, what am I going to cook for him? I have no way of asking him what does he want. So it's like, okay, you can just like guess or you can put some effort into it. That's a big theme. It's like putting effort and delivering value. So I literally, luckily he's famous enough. I Google, what does Kevin Hart eat? Like, and then the first thing that comes up is a GQ article, like Kevin Hart's diet. I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. I was like, this is amazing. It's actually funny. I need to give a shout out to Jason too. Because Jason did, like, I called him, like, I'm going to cook for Kevin Hart. Like, how do I, like, maximize it? He was like, ask him what he needs. I was like, I can't. He's not here. He was like, look up what he eats. I was like, okay, that's a great idea. So he gave me that idea. So I looked up and then, like, the GQ article is perfect. It gave me exactly what I needed. I was like, perfect. And then, like, it was actually, like, sometimes people will say things in an article and you don't know if it's, like, it was taken out of context or, like, that may have changed. It might be outdated. Luckily, it was actually very up to date and very, like, what he actually eats. So I learned in the future, like, you know, after the fact, that was exactly like the perfect thing to cook for him because he loved it. And it's exactly his diet. And I'll send you a clip. He was actually ate it on stream. So it was live in front of half.
Wow.
So keep in mind, not only that this is kind of jumping ahead, but not only did I cook for Kevin Hart, I gave him his food in front of 500,000 people watching live. It was the biggest Twitch stream ever. Yeah. So, like, talk about pressure.
Yeah.
So this is hard. Sorry. So now that me live giving him his food in front of 500,000 people ended up being at 5 a.m. Remember, I got there at 5 p.m. So I get to the house. This is a 12-hour story. I get to the house, and this house is crazy. Like I said, celebrities all the time, random animals all the time. I've walked in on Thanksgiving. There was live turkeys everywhere.
Oh my God.
Like 12 live turkeys just running around the house. Because it was Thanksgiving, why not?
Right.
And like, so there's always random animals. I've walked in, there's been a zebra in the living room. Just alone. Just like a lone zebra. So like the house is nuts.
For videos and stuff like that?
Yeah. They're filming content, but like it's just there. It's crazy. Like this is a nuts. This house is nuts. You never know what you're gonna walk into. I love the chaos, but like it is pretty nuts. Not that many people can like function under like I'm like cooking a turkey on Thanksgiving surrounded by live turkeys. Like, I just feel bad because like I'm like cooking your brother, like it's a whole thing. But so I walked to this house 5 p.m. I know Kevin's coming in a couple hours. I just want to prep everything. I bought the food that he eats, and then I also bought the food that my client eats because I was going to cook for both of them. Keep in mind, I am coming 5 hours early to cook for Kevin. I knew it was going to be a long night. I called one of my trainers and I was like, you know, can like you take some some sessions in the morning because I knew it was going to be a long night. And so this is what happened. I get there, 5 p.m., have all the food. I pull up to the gate. I get in, and there's a delivery guy with a dolly, and on that dolly was a porta potty. And he asked me, where do you guys want the porta potty? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm just a chef. I don't live here. I was like, let me go ask. So Cenat is the main streamer. This was going to be his live stream. He's the biggest streamer in the world. Like, his streams are huge. He's also a genius. Like, he knows how to entertain people. I mean, at max in the stream, 700,000+ people were watching. So, like, it's nuts. Like, almost 1 million people watching one live stream. So he's like a genius. So he's always there's always crazy stuff happening. A lot of it is around him because he's always like innovating, always doing the next best thing. So I go to his assistant because I know she's the one in charge of all of this. Like she works her butt off. Like she like really, really works her butt off. Like especially on nights like that. Like not every night is super crazy. Like there's a lot of quiet nights where like there's not even that many guys in the house. But I knew it was gonna be a long night. So I go to her and I was like, hey, the porta potty's here. Like, and I know like to expect unexpected. So like I was like, where do you want the porta potty? And I knew it was gonna be something normal, like outside. She was like, we're gonna put it in Kai's room. I was like, okay. So keep in mind, there's no one here in this house except for me and her and Kai. So like, guess who's moving the porta potty? Me. Because the guy was like, we're not allowed to bring porta potties in the house. If you guys want to bring it in the house, you have to do it yourself. I was like, all right, well, me over delivering value. All right, I'm moving the porta potty now. So this porta potties are big. They're not that heavy actually, but they're just big. Right. But I have a dolly. The guy was kind enough to like leave the dolly for me. And their house is kind of like a U-shaped. They have kind of like a pool in the middle, and it's actually on a huge mountain. It's beautiful. It has a beautiful view and a basketball court. But Kai's room is all the way at the end of the U and in the basement. So this is like the furthest possible place it could be for the porta potty. I like have this dolly, this porta potty. I'm bringing it like out by the pool, going around, bringing it back in. Luckily, there's a lot of double doors, so it actually fits. I start bringing it down the stairs. Luckily, some of the other guys came, and just randomly, I got lucky. A few other guys come, and they start helping me out. So we get it down the stairs. We go to turn it in. It doesn't fit. Like there wasn't enough, like we couldn't get it. We couldn't squeeze it in because no one thought before ordering the porta potty to measure to make sure it actually will fit in the room.
You're like, it's a big house.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what they thought.
Yeah.
So Kai's like, there's a wall that's holding it back. And our thought process was, keep in mind, the standards in this house is like very different than the normal standards of life. Yeah. So like, let's put a hole in the wall to give us a couple of inches so we can squeeze it in. So we just start getting a hammer and just destroying this wall. Because keep in mind, like the wall can be fixed. Like so much money will be made in this stream that like fixing the wall is not a problem. Like we just need to get and I should mention this. The porta potty is there because Kevin Hart wanted there to be a porta potty in his room. Because the joke was that Kai is so dirty that he doesn't want to use his bathroom. He would rather use a porta potty. And yeah.
Oh, because I was wondering, I'm like, why is there a porta potty?
Oh yeah. That's a great thought. Like, why are we putting a porta potty in this guy's house? And like, so that was the joke. And I should probably mention too, this stream is like it's like a sleepover thing. So that was the whole concept of it. It's like, I'm going to sleep over at his house and I don't want to use his bathroom. So I'm going to get a porta potty because I'd rather use a porta potty than his bathroom. That's how dirty it is. So that was kind of like the joke. So now we're putting this holes in this wall and we're like, it's not going to fit. Like even if we could destroy the wall, like nothing's going to happen. It's just not going to fit. It's not going to turn in. So we got to bring it back up, out of the U. Now it's back to where it initially started. And keep in mind, we're like an hour and a half deep into this. Right. Streams in 2 hours. Biggest stream that's ever happened. A lot of pressure. Kevin wants a porta potty. So like we're like, the porta potty needs to end up in the room. We just need to figure out how we're going to do that. So Kai had the great idea. He was like, okay, at this time, there's about like 10 guys. So literally what we do is like, okay, he's like, there's the basketball court that's in the front of the house. There's like railing. And then Kai's room has like a little balcony. He was like, if we can throw the porta potty over the railing, then a few of the guys catch it from the balcony and pull it in, then we can get the porta potty.
While catching a porta potty off of a balcony.
I was one of the catchers. Of the
no
porta
way.
Potty. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Thank God I was there because like there were not that many strong guys. Right. So like we had like 8 guys on top, like to pick it up, and we weren't throwing it, but we were kind of like sliding it down. We put like a door there that kind of helped a little bit. But the thing is, if we missed the gap, like if they did something wrong or we did something wrong, it was gonna fall and it was done. Yes. That if it falls, it's gonna fall like 50 feet, and the porta potty is no more. Like we're not not getting it in the room. It's not even gonna be a porta potty anymore. It's gonna be just like broken. Yeah. So that's what we do. We get 8 guys up top to pick it up. Like me, Kai, and like a big dude, a really big dude. Luckily he was there because like he helped out the most. A big dude, we're gonna catch it. So all these guys had to do, keep in mind, it's big, porta potty is big, not crazy heavy, not like the heaviest thing in the world. All they had to do was pick it up over the ledge, which is about this height, and then like slide it down. and we were gonna catch it and bring it in. They couldn't pick it up. They couldn't lift it up to over the railing. So what we had to do was we had to tip it over. Tipping it over, porta potty, blue juice. Keep in mind, I'm cooking for Kevin Hart in a few hours. I get drenched in porta potty juice because I had to tip it over.
Yeah.
So because it went upside down and we're catching it.
Yeah.
And it's like, so luckily the porta potty had never been used before. But that blue juice smells so bad. And like I had just bought new clothes.
yeah.
Like that was my second time wearing that shirt.
Right.
And like
your Kevin Hart outfit.
Everything got ruined. It doesn't matter. Like I mean, I didn't get super drenched, but like it got on my clothes. That stuff stains. Like my clothes were done. Like the clothes I wore that day were done. Luckily, I had to change of clothes in my car, and I was able to take a shower after. But when we got that porta potty in, when we caught that thing, we celebrated like we won the lottery. You were like we were so happy because like we didn't think we were gonna get it in. At this point, it's like 6:30. I should mention this too. At one point, Kai's like, we gotta get another porta potty that's smaller. He told his assistant to get another porta potty in 2 hours. Get a porta potty that's smaller, that's never been used before. Yeah. And like she was like super stressed out. Like I saw how stressed out she was. Like I told her, this is gonna be a big night for her in general, like work wise. Like she's not. I know, like she's not sleeping tonight in general. Like this is the beginning of her day, and no one is there to help her. Like she's on her own. And we'll get to that in a little bit. So when we get that in, like we're celebrating, we're high fiving, we're hugging. You would think like we won like the Super Bowl. Like we were so happy. I'll show you after this. There's a video of us like getting it in. Right. Like we were celebrating it. Like he posted on his Instagram. We were also happy. And keep in mind, we're 2 hours into my 12-hour story. So after that, things settle down. A couple guys leave, and like Brittany's there, and I can just tell like she's stressed. She has a lot of things to do. There's a lot of segments in the stream. It's not just like talking like this. There's things they do. There's games they play. There's guests they have. There's a lot of things that go into it. So I could tell she's stressed. So I was like, listen, I'm gonna be here for a while because I couldn't cook until the segment for them to eat was gonna happen. So like there's a series of events that need to happen. So I already knew I was gonna be there pretty much most of that night, if not the whole night. So I was like, listen, I can help you out. I'm not doing anything. I'm just standing here. Like, let me help you out. So I become like the assistant's assistant. And keep in mind, I'm not getting paid anything. Like I'm doing this all because like not even goodwill for Kai. Because Kai, he never even knew that no one except for her even knows that I did this. I'm doing this just for her. Yeah. And like, so it's not just like, oh, I'm doing things for like rich people or celebrities. Like I do things for just people in general. Yeah. And like, I never know what's going to happen. Like what can come from that? Maybe nothing. And a lot of times it is nothing, or sometimes it is nothing, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah. So I'm helping her doing things. We're ordering things. It's like, oh, I forgot a printer. It's like, okay, we'll find the printer. Like, the hours start going by. I'm helping her each segment at a time. One segment was guess what's in the box. So have you ever heard of that game? So for those who don't know, there's a box. You cut a hole in it. I cut the hole in the box.
Nice.
You cut a hole in the box, and then you blindfold yourself, and you have to put your hand in the box, and you have to guess what was in the box. So like it could be like something as simple as like a baseball glove, which was I picked all the things too. So there was two options. It was going to be like a random thing we found in the house, or they ordered some animals to come for the day. Right. So like they had like snakes, tarantulas, monkeys, armadillos, all these random animals. So the point is though, they know it could be a live animal or it could be just an item, but they don't know which one it is. Which makes it really funny to watch on stream because like it's just a baseball glove and they're freaking out because they think they're about to touch like a snake. So that's like the whole funny aspect of it. And it's a very like a mental mind game. So that was one of the aspects of what we did that night. Another thing they had was, so keep in mind, I'm hanging out with like monkeys. So like there's like monkeys on my shoulder. There was like what is it called? A scorpion, like just crawling a scorpion. Yeah. So it was safe, but like I was like, I don't know how many times I'm gonna be able to hold a scorpion safely.
Right.
So I gotta maximize. I might not get this opportunity again. So like, there's all these random animals. Then next was like they did like a talent show, And then like Kevin, Kai, and Drewski was another guy. He's a big influencer too. He was there that night too. Like it was the three of them. So they were doing like a talent show. So like keep in mind, at this point, there is a bus picking people up at like a local Target, bringing them up because the house is on a hill, bringing them up the hill, dropping people off. There are hundreds of people coming in and out of this house for the talent show. It was like hours of a talent show. There was like people in the living room breathing fire, people doing like contortionists, like mimes, breakdancing, the most random things happening just in this living room. And like I'm trying to like helping Brittany like manage all these people, and like it was a lot. It was so much fun.
And you still have to cook.
I still have to cook. Oh yeah. We haven't even gotten to like the point where I'm cooking for Kevin Hart. I'm just like in the house helping manage all of these things. And then the next segment, what was the next segment? They did just try not to laugh, which I didn't have to do anything for, thank God. They just like put water in their mouth, like played funny videos and tried not to like spit it out. So finally, it is like 3 a.m. and it's go time. It's about to be the cooking segment. It's me. I'm cooking just for Kevin. Keep in mind, I'm only there. No one asked me to do this. I'm only there because Kevin eats healthy, and they ordered a hibachi person to come and cook everyone hibachi. And so, like, I'm only cooking for Kevin. Hibachi guy's coming in there. He's going to be on the stream and cook it for them on the stream. So I asked him, like, how long do you think it's going to take you? He said probably like 45 minutes, an hour, which is like typical for like cooking for like 10 people. Like that seems pretty normal for me. And then so like I was like, oh, perfect. I'm going to time it right because I want Kevin's food to be like nice and warm as I bring it out. Like, so like it's perfect. And I go down there, like plate in hand, everything plated. I got the fork, I got the napkins, I got everything. And then like I look at like the hibachi grill, and it looks like they just started. And keep in mind, it was 3 a.m. when they started. Now it's 4 a.m. I cooked this food, and I'm like, oh my God. And then I go up to him, I was like, how much longer until you're done?
Yeah.
He's like, maybe like another 30 minutes. I was like, well, judging how like your time is going, like that could be hours. Like, and it was a long time. But a couple hours go by. It's like now it's like 5:30 in the morning. Finally, their food's ready. So finally now I can bring out the food to Kevin. But it was cold, so I had to like reheat it, which is like hard. Like cook food, like to reheat it to where it tastes like it's fresh. Yeah. It's hard to do. It's doable, but like it takes a lot of finesse to do it. And I was scared because like reheating it one time is doable. Reheating it twice, that's like a tough task. Yeah. So and for it to still be like feel like it's fresh and reheat it twice. So I reheated it. Luckily, I timed it right. I didn't like right when they're, and also I have to time this right too because there's a lot of people watching, and a lot of the people in the room, Kevin, Drewski, these are comedians, so they're like roasting everyone that comes in this room. Like if I bring, and no one knows I'm doing this. I just want you to know, no one in this room knows I'm about to come in this room. There's 500,000 people watching. The only person, and I guess the goodwill that I did get from Brittany was she was the one that was like, you should do this. She was like, and like, I knew I wasn't going to get in trouble. A, because I'm delivering value. B, because like, if anything, I could be like, Brittany told me I could. So like, Brittany knew I was doing it. If anyone was like, no one knew you were going to do that, like, you can't just come in the stream. I'd be like, Brittany said I could. So like, that was like my out too. So she did help me with that. Her not even knowing that she was helping me. And I was kind of like asking her like leading questions like, should I cook for Kevin? In my heart, knowing that I'm like wanted to, but I needed to almost make it like it was like her idea. Yeah. Like, okay, so like if anything happens, it's like she said I could. Yeah. It was her idea, not mine. But so I'm timing this perfectly because if everyone else starts eating, Kevin's gonna eat because Kevin doesn't know there's healthy food coming for him. So I need to time it. So I need to time it to like where I give Kevin the food before everyone else starts eating. But also I can't do it too early because then it's weird. Yeah. Now Kevin's eating while everyone else is waiting to eat. Yeah. And it's kind of weird. Yeah. But I did know like this is all about entertainment. So I knew like I needed to make it look special. Like he was getting special treatment from everyone else. Because I know he's a comedian. He's going to play into it. Yeah. And so like I had like, the little metal thing to put over the food. I made it look fancy. And I walked in. I was like, this is right before everyone else is about to eat. They're about to get up and get their food. I was like, order for Mr. Hart, like just making a joke about it and like pick up the food. And he was like, oh yeah, this is perfect. He was so excited. And everyone else is kind of playing into it. Like, why does he get to eat that? And Kevin started roasting him. He's like, does it look like we have the same body? So our diets are not the same. Like it was. I'll show you the clip later. It was hilarious. But so it worked out perfectly. And so now it's 5:30 a.m. I have a client in like 2 hours. I was like, at this point, I was like, do I sleep or do I like? I was almost scared to go to sleep because like I'm like, if I go to sleep, then I just might like sleep in and miss my client.
Or
so,
will you even be done or out of the?
So I was done at this point.
Okay.
Once I gave Kevin the food, I had cleaned the kitchen already. Everything's ready. Like the segment was over. Brittany had left. She ended up leaving before me. Like, so she was gone. Everything was over because after they ate, they were just gonna go to sleep for a couple hours and then like wake up and then continue to stream. But it was so late that they were like ready to go to sleep. So there was nothing else for me to do, nothing else for me to help out with. I was done. So I'm like, okay, do I? I ended up taking a small nap. That was it though. Like you got people that realize like, oh yeah, like you get to cook for Kevin Hart. Like that's really cool. Like you gotta realize what goes into that. Like I've never cooked for Kevin like before midnight. Yeah. Because when I'm cooking for him, he's in town, he's filming something. Yeah. And so there's always chaos going on. I never know when the food needs to be ready. I've cooked for him like 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning, 5. Like it's always the middle of the night and it's just chaos. Yeah. And there's a lot that goes into some like cooking for someone like Kevin. Their schedule, like he is like the most disciplined person I think I've ever met. Like that stream he did from like 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. And then he went that day and he barely slept at all on that stream. He went that next day to go film a movie. And then he was working all day. Like he'll have 24-hour days of work, like of straight work. Right. And like also he's not missing his workouts and also he's staying on top of his diet. Yeah. Like I don't know if he would have ate the hibachi because Brittany was like, he's probably not going to eat it. So like you should cook for him, Wow. So that's how strict he is. And like, and what I made for him, if you're wondering, it's like brown rice, sauteed asparagus, and like grilled lemon pepper chicken. Like super, super clean, super, super healthy. Not like a bunch of oils. Like everything's super clean, super healthy. Yes. He is so on top of his fitness and his regimen. Like it doesn't matter how much he's working. He works a lot. And like he can also like he can go to sleep like this. Like he'll be in the car and he can just boom knock out and like cause like but when he's up he's always on. He is obviously this is like he's the funniest person I ever met, but he is the funniest person I ever met. I mean there's a reason why he is so successful with comedy because like he'll be eating my food and talking to me. I'll just be laughing. Like I'm just like dying laughing, and it is so much fun like when I get to be around him. And like he is genuinely like the nicest person in the world. When he walks into a room, it doesn't matter how many people in the room, he individually shakes everyone's hand and introduces himself like he's like just a regular person because he is just a regular person. And he walks out of the room, he shakes everyone's hand and says bye to everyone. Wow. Like that is how like meticulous he is about like connecting with people and like no ego, no like and these are people that like these are just random people. Like I mean, they're no one special. And that's just who he is. That's just like that. Like, no, he definitely doesn't have to do that. But and honestly, like, because when I first met him, it was before I cooked for him. It was when he's coming in and about to go on stream. That's when he shook everyone's hand and like he didn't shake my hand. I was cooking, but he said hi to me. And I make it like I purposely don't put any attention when someone famous walks into the room. Like they're coming to this house as a guest. I never want them to make them feel like I'm a fan and I'm like giddy to see them. Yeah. So I don't even look. Like I just look. I saw Kevin Hart was coming in. I'm just doing my thing. Right. And like he's not the only person. He's one of the few people, like famous people, walk in and like give me like, hey, like say hey to me, even though like I wasn't looking or anything. But he went out of his way to like make me feel recognized too. And that's just who he is as a person. And like it's really cool that like I get to see him when I see him, and when he's in town, that I get to cook him some healthy meals, give him that option. And that's the thing. It's like it's all goes into building goodwill. That night was a lot of goodwill's built. Even Kai, remember I was like I was worried because I always like, I try never to overstep bounds. And you do have to have a certain level of professionalism when you deal with these kind of people. So I try never to overstep bounds. And like cooking for Kevin without asking is not something I normally would do. Normally with guests, I kind of just let it be. I don't want to intrude or anything, especially going on a stream where like 500,000 people are watching. I don't want to like over intrude. But Kai did come out to me after I cooked for Kevin before I left. He's like, hey man, like he's like, I know you've been here for a long time because I helped him with the porta potty 12 hours ago. He's like, I know you've been here for a long time. I know you waited a long time to cook him that meal. He was like, I really appreciate it. So like that felt good. Like not only did I not get like in trouble, but I got like recognized for it. So like that night, I built a lot of goodwill with Kai's assistant, with Kai, and with Kevin. You know, and after like things just happened the way they did, and now I get to cook for him when I do, and it's cool. Yeah.
So Kevin Hart, obviously, like the reason I love that you are associated with him in any way is because I have been a Kevin fan since like the Soul Plane days and even before that. Like I have read his book, and actually I've listened to his book probably over 4 or 5 times because his book came out at a time where I was a pretty low point in my life in some ways, and it was the right motivation, it was the right story. He shares a lot of struggles in his books and stuff that like you don't see on his social and what you think and know of him, where you're like, all the success he has today is deserved because the level of grind that he did, you hear in that book, like the honesty behind a lot of that journey, which, you know, doesn't make it to the Tonight Show or whatever in his normal bits and things. You don't get that sense of him. So I don't know. One of the things I wanted to like ask you is from your interactions with him, right? Like what has been something that surprised you about working with him, you know, like that you maybe didn't expect? Because I'm sure you had preconceived notions before meeting him or before getting to do some stuff for him, right? It's like, oh my God, it's Kevin Hart, you know? But like, what was it like after getting to know him a little bit where you're like, wow, I'm kind of surprised by this?
I think just his like capacity to be able to work. I didn't know like a human could work that much until seeing him actually do it. Right. And like me having to stay up to cook for him when he's working that late. Yeah. And like me just being up, getting tired, and he's like, you know, performing or like putting on a show basically, you know,
the
like
$1 million movie he's going.
Like,
yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, like I'm tired. I'm just hanging around waiting for you to eat, and I'm tired. Yeah. Like, and then when I'm going to sleep, you're going to film a movie. Yeah. Like, it's wild. I mean, that day after I met him and I cooked for him and I stayed up till 5 a.m. and I slept for like an hour and a half, and then I kept training people throughout the day and then I cooked again. I was exhausted.
Yeah, I bet.
And that was just one day in the life of Kevin.
Right.
Like he has 365 of those a year.
Yeah.
And like it's kind of wild to see like how much someone can actually work. Yeah. And like he doesn't sleep very much. Right. He really doesn't. Because he'll have late nights, but then like he's very regimented about like his workout schedule and then after that, like his just schedule is packed as is. It's pretty wild to see like how efficient someone can also be with their time. To get that much done. Right. Just everyone has 24 hours, but he's just like maximizing them to the max.
Yep.
Yeah.
What have you like from obviously the first time that you cooked for him, there's this pressure, of course, of like, oh, I hope he likes it. I hope it stays warm by the time he's like all that stuff, right? What have you gotten out like since then out of his reactions? Has there ever been a reaction where you're like, oh man, like I could have done better, or I, you know, wish I did this or whatever? Or is it typically pretty like he's appreciative of it and he enjoys your meal? He's
appreciative of it. He enjoys it. I would say just like mainly like when I can't time it right and like cold food. He doesn't care at all. I'll be like, oh, I'll warm it up for you. No, he just grabs it and just starts eating. Yeah. And like, so he doesn't care. He's appreciative. But like, when you cook for someone, you want it to be like perfect and warm and like everything. But like, he's just like, nah, I'll just eat it. I'm like, oh God. It's like, when it's cold, like he'll eat literally cold food. And I'm like, oh God. And it's like, I don't know, like me, I would never eat like cold chicken and rice and Brussels sprouts. I'm like, I would never have that cold. Like I'm the kind of person who's like my hot food I want hot. But he doesn't mind. He's easy to cook for. He just eats very healthy. As long as it's very healthy, that's like the main thing.
You know what like zooming out even from Kevin, I think the reason that what you're doing, like there's such a strong tie to business and also life here, is because cooking food or it is kind of subjective, like, or eating food, like how it tastes, right? Like somebody might like salmon, somebody might hate salmon, but you could have the best salmon dish in the world and it's like, it's just not compatible, right? There is also this thing of like, as an entrepreneur, you want people to like what you're making. You want them to like your product, your service, whatever, right? And it feels like food is this really personal,
Yeah.
vulnerable,
Deeply personal.
right? It's like,
Yeah.
this is my grandma's recipe.
Yeah.
And like this person might not like it or whatever, right? So I think there's something there about like how your relationship with the effort, the input that goes into making it, and also maybe even like separating it from your personal identity. Because that's something I know I dealt with in every industry that I worked in or every business that I worked on, is like you take the successes and failures very personally. Versus at a certain point, there's something that happens where maybe it's just you've done it enough where it's like, okay, this is not an attack on me. This is just the food. And you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. So how do you handle, I'm sure you also got to practice that with some of the other big name people before Kevin Hart, right? But it's like with Kevin, for example, specifically, how do you handle that type of dynamic of like, this is my work, right? And this is just a meal for you, but this is my work, right? I have pride in this. And I still have to be able to like detach from it and the result after I make it a little bit.
I'm really lucky because I don't have that many bad experiences with like Kevin or anybody really with my food. And I'm really lucky. I think there's a reason for that though. I have such a stringent like intake process where we talk about like allergies, food preferences, like how much, like these are things that people don't think about, like, but how much seasoning do you want?
Yeah.
What kind of seasonings do you want? Do you like just a little bit of salt, or like do you want like all kinds of seasonings? I've had people that like, believe it or not, I was like, I just want grilled chicken breast with a little bit of salt and pepper. That's it.
Yeah.
So like some people want like on the plain side. Some people want things very flavorful. Like Agent, the streamer, like he eats like a kid. So like he wants food that is healthy and is gonna help him lose weight, but it's also gonna like be like what he wants to eat. Yes. You know, like burgers, mac and cheese, tacos, like things like a kid would eat. Like, but he wants the like healthy, high protein versions of those, and he's been able to lose that 100 pounds while still eating the food that he wants. Yeah. And that's the big thing. I think if you do the right work on the front end, on the back end, you usually don't get caught up on too many things because you know that person so well, you know what they want so well. Sometimes it's a little thing here and there, but I try to do as best as I can on the front end to eliminate any problems on the back end.
I'm so glad that you said that, because that's the thing I noticed with retention, with good experiences, bad experiences. Like most people, you can eliminate a bad experience from happening on day one. It's like on day one is the most important thing, because you're either, it's like a lot of times people oversell it. You like oversold it, and now there's this big thing of what somebody's expecting. So their expectations are mismatched from what you might actually be doing or whatever, right? Versus if you take the time to kind of, like you said, draw out like all these expectations, seasonings, this, that, you're mitigating all the room for error that comes up in a process. That's something I've learned in the past few years in particular, where it's like, okay, the core of everything in month 3 or even week 3 that you want to occur smoothly happens on day 1. Minute 3. By minute 3, you could have all this kind of taken care of if you do that part right. So that's really cool. I want to ask you, with Kevin in particular, but also just in general across different clients, like big name people and also not, how do you begin to think about packaging? these offerings, right? So when you communicate like, oh yeah, I'm like a personal chef, what is that all you kind of have to say, and that rings a bell for people like, oh my gosh, my food can be taken care of? Or do you have a more strategic way that you're like, this is the what you get, these are the deliverables?
So there's different ways to go about it. A lot of it's asking questions, kind of seeing what the person needs. I'm never going to sell something to someone if I feel like they don't need it. There's a couple different categories that like, because technically I offer 3 different services. The personal training, which is kind of tied in with nutrition coaching, and then the actual private chef work as well. And really, if I feel like someone needs the whole shebang, everything, me take care of all those meals, me doing all their sessions with them, or one of my trainers doing it, it really is like, it's usually either like a very goal oriented thing where it's like, I want to lose this weight. A lot of times it is weight loss, or it could be just a time oriented thing where it's like, I just don't have time in the day to cook, or maybe your time is so valuable that's not worth cooking with it. But a lot of times how I package things with more like the weight loss, it's called diagnostic sales. So what I can do with that is if someone comes to me and they want to lose 100 pounds, I can be like, okay, well, we can realistically probably get you to lose 2 pounds a week. Because usually you want to lose between 1 and 2 pounds a week. And if you have 100 pounds to lose, usually you can lose it on the higher end because it's a smaller percentage of your total body weight that you're going to lose. So it's like, okay, if we're going to lose 2 pounds a week, you want to lose 100 pounds, then we're going to work together for 50 weeks. Yeah. And then I sell them 50 weeks. And you're selling directly to that goal. So it's not like this arbitrary, like we can do a year. I mean, I can do that too, especially if it's more of the time equation kind of thing, then it does kind of make sense to go, okay, we can do like 3 months, 6 months, a year. Like, but a lot of times, like with Jason has a goal, and his goal is to be primed for that tournament in 6 weeks. So it was a very simple 6 weeks. That's how long we're going to work together. And then if my goal is to blow them away in that 6 weeks, sure, and if he wants to continue, then we continue. Yeah. But that's usually how I package things. It kind of, there's not one size fits all. Everything I'm doing is so tailored. It just kind of depends on the person and the conversation. It goes off what they need. Not like, oh, what I'm trying to get them to do is like, what do you need? And kind of making a tailored solution for what you need. Because that's kind of the benefit of working with me. Everything's tailored. Yes. Food, workouts, when we're working out, when you're eating food, how many meals are you eating? Are you doing snacks? Like all of that is kind of tailored for you. So it's not just a one size fits all thing.
I think something else that is kind of interesting to think about is like with getting in the door with somebody like Kevin, right? With like you didn't need technically a chef certification or even a nutrition certification, right? What is it you think in hindsight now with Kevin, with streamers, with everybody that you've interacted with, what is it that passes the signal test where it's like, oh yeah, like you get the offer, like can you cook for me, right? Because it's like is it Agent, sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
With Agent, there was this example you demonstrated of like he had a problem, right? He had the emotional experience of like, I'm gonna solve this, right? You happened to be the right person there that would actually knew how to do it. And there's something there subconsciously where like he was convinced that you would know, and you like your food is good enough, like all these things are in line for me to be like, you got the job, right? What do you think that is now looking back with someone like Kevin or like Asian's assistant or whoever? What are they looking for that you're able to pass for some reason, right? It's not a certification.
Yeah, it's not a certification at all. No one's actually, even with personal training for 10 years, not one person's ever asked me if I was certified. Yeah. So like nobody cares about that. Yeah. Nobody cares about that at all. And it's interesting you asked me this question because hiring, this is a big thing. Like I had to like do a deep dive and like kind of re-engineering my success and looking back and seeing like, why am I successful? Why do people want to, I have clients that like, they know how to work out. They literally pay me just to spend time with me. And they're very open and honest about that. Like they just want to spend time with me and they'll pay me just to do that. Yeah. And a lot of it's the intangibles. A lot of it is the, common sense is not that common. Because this is what I'm thinking when I'm trying to hire someone. So I'm trying to like recreate a me in a way and look for like a me. And a lot of it's like common sense, high social IQ, and a high social IQ in like environments that people are usually not in. Like I am already putting myself, like, even I was talk to my mom, she'd be like, whoa, I would never think about that. It's because like I'm putting myself in other people's shoes to where like I'm a guest in these people's homes, even though I'm working, I'm cooking, but like, especially if they're famous, they don't want to feel like they're famous. They're in their home.
They want the picture, the videos.
They feel like they're famous when they're outside.
Yeah.
They don't want to feel like they're famous inside. They in the comfort of their own home. Yeah. They don't want to feel like there's a fan in their house. And so like I'm very conscious of that. And I think referrals are so powerful with high level people because you're not only telling, hey, this person's good, but it's like this person's good and he could work with us. Like he gets it. Like he's gonna make you feel comfortable. Like, oh, okay, if you worked with this person, I know you can work with me because we're on the same level. And now I know you can deal with people that are on this level, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So it really is like you had to kind of do some subconscious thinking of like that kind of stuff. Like, oh, Kevin doesn't want somebody who's like, oh, I brought all my clothes so you can autograph every little one of these. You know what I mean? Everything that I own. Can you autograph this? It's like, that's an example of like a totally unaware type thing, right? Definitely. Where it's like, it's not actually uncommon to be like, a lot of people would maybe do that or take advantage of that.
I've never taken a picture with anybody.
Right.
Never.
Yeah.
Like I've never like done anything to make it seem like I'm a fan. I treat them like they're people because that's who they are. They are people. And like, it's funny. My little sister, she's 14 and she's like, can I get a picture? Like, can I like, she's always, she's 14.
Sure.
But like, it is like the epitome of everything you're not supposed to do. Like everything she wants me to do, like I would never do in a million years.
Right.
And you can't do that. You have to have a certain level of professionalism with everything. And also, I think a lot of it goes back to just like, I'm positive and I'm giving. Yeah. And when someone's positive, giving, and optimistic, that's just a person that's like gonna attract people. Like people want to hang out. No one wants to hang out with someone that's like complaining all the time or feel like it's always like taking. Like you want to be around someone that's positive. You want to be around someone that's like willing to like, hey, what can I do? Like everywhere I'm at, like I was telling you off camera, like when I cook for someone, I'm not just cooking for them. I'm doing everything I can. Like actually what I do, Agent, he's streaming a lot of times while I'm cooking. And like I'll be cooking for him and I'll give him his meal. Sometimes he'd be like, oh, I'm feeling sick. Like I'll bring him tea. Like he doesn't even like, he doesn't have to tell me. Like he doesn't even ask me. I'll go to the store real quick and bring him back something. Like when I do something for someone, I'm not just doing what they pay me to do. I'm going way far and beyond. And that's the thing is like, whoa, like this guy's different. Because I'm willing to do like the extra things that most people wouldn't even think, let alone do.
Yeah. What would you say? Because you told the story about getting to first cook for Kevin, right? What was it like the second or third time? Like, because it's really like after a little bit, you're like, all right, this is old news now. You're like, I'm doing this. I'm going to New York now. Like it feels totally like a part of your thing. But the second and third time or fourth time after that first time where you're like, whoa, that was a big deal, right? How did that play out? The second time, third time you got to
honestly, like first time it was like wild. I'm like, I was in Publix. I'm like, I'm shopping for Kevin Hart. Like it's like so wild. Like what in the world is happening right now? And like things do get normal quick, you know. And like it kind of is. When you meet someone, especially when you meet them a couple times, like the way you look at them changes a lot. Yeah. And like it's funny because I'm just like, oh, it's Kevin. You know, it's not like Kevin Hart anymore. Yeah. You know, it's kind of weird. So the pressure becomes a lot after the first time. It's like pressure's a lot less. Also, like the pressure in the beginning was like I told you a deep dive with the person, food preferences, you know, all that kind of thing. I didn't have that with him. Because I couldn't talk, I didn't access him. So I was like, I just had to like hope. But then like he liked it. So I had a really good sense, okay, he likes this. So I just stayed in the same like niche until I was able to figure out like, okay, Good. I got it right. I'm happy I got it right. But like I was kind of lucky in a way. Like I was lucky that I found that article and I was lucky that like the article was accurate. So luckily that helped me out. But that's where a lot of the kind of like anxiety and stress came from the first time. So after that, once that was gone, it became a lot easier.
And now with, for example, this trip in New York, right, that you're going to be doing, um, you're going to get to be doing a similar situation, right, where you're cooking for him again, right? What have you, um, what have you like, what do you think you've observed from being around him that's worth like over $1 million in terms of just like the whole concept? I mean, me and you both believe in this of like getting in the room, right? And it's like, okay, nothing beats seeing something with your own eyes, and like it's breaking the 4-minute mile belief, right? It's like, whoa, it can be done. And that goes a long way. What is it that he, being around somebody of his fame, wealth, success, work ethic, whatever, right? That you were like, whoa, like if I didn't get this opportunity, I don't know if this belief would have been solidified, because it may be something you already knew.
This is actually really interesting because Agent, the streamer I cooked for, he actually not met, but this was before he was a famous streamer. He saw Kevin Hart at a gym, and a bunch of people were approaching Kevin, and he's in the middle of his workout, and like Agent could tell like he didn't get a good workout in because the whole time he's being bombarded with like photos and like people meeting him. But Agent said like the way he handled it was like so classy, and like he would then look bothered. He gave everyone the attention. Now Agent tries to model how he treats people based off that. So now it's funny because it was full circle, because now Kevin's coming to their house and now they're famous too, and now I've seen Agent, like I've seen the way that moment with Kevin has impacted Agent. And so like it's kind of like the trickle down effect, because like Kevin affected Agent and Kevin and Agent affected me, to where now it's like if I ever get any kind of fame, like I know it's almost like my responsibility to like kind of keep following in the footsteps of what the foundation they laid out was like. I think the answer comes down to character. Just like having character, that's the most important thing. It's like, it doesn't matter how much money you have, doesn't matter how much fame you have, but like your character is like the most important thing, and what people say about you. Like, like you shouldn't always overvalue what people think of you, but it is important, like your character, what people say about you when you're not there, and like it just shows who you really are. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like it's like, yeah, it's cool to be famous. Yeah, it's cool to have money, but like if you don't have like the character, that is like the biggest key.
Yeah. I think yeah, 100%. I want to ask you, because we didn't dive too much into this, but like I'm sure that it's on some people's minds, but it's like, what are some of the essential tools for you that are like, if this wasn't in that house, like the streamer house or where you're cooking for Kevin, you're like kind of sweating bullets a little bit. Like, what are some of your essential, like, this is the knife I like, this is the pan, this is the whatever, like that you can't live without, that you also think is good for somebody who is like, somebody who's an enthusiast when it comes to cooking or food and wants to kind of do more? What's kind of the toolkit if you could arrange a shopping cart for somebody?
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, like I'm of the belief that I try not to be hyper reliant on like having a certain thing, or like, because I'm in so many different environments, so many different homes. Not everyone has the same things. So I have to be very like just adaptable. I will say though, like if someone's like looking to like get started into cooking, I think like good quality knives that you're keeping sharp, good quality cutting boards, like wood cutting boards, not plastic, for a number of reasons. But like, I think those kind of things are more important. Like good pans, that doesn't matter quite as much. It's really like knives, cutting boards, that kind of stuff, because that is going to make things a lot easier and make things come out just a lot better. There's nothing huge. I mean, there's always like easy things. Like if you sous vide things, it makes it a lot easier, a lot seamless. Like I know a lot of people like they get uncomfortable with like how to cook meats for like what time. Like sous vide can make that a lot easier. There's a lot of things you can look up, like how to do that. Honestly, like a great way, especially trying to be healthy and cut out oils. I love the air fryer.
Oh yeah.
Like you can a million things you can do with the air fryer, and you can get really creative too. Like I mean, if you're looking for something that's real easy and seamless, like I personally don't do this, but like you can use a crock pot. I mean, there's so many good easy crock pot recipes. That's I've never really gotten into that kind of thing. Usually I'm more like air fryer, stove, and then oven a little bit. That's usually like what I use, but it's mainly stove and air fryer, honestly. There's just so much you can do. You have so much control of temperatures with that alone. You can minimize oils with that. And I think honestly, like, don't overcomplicate it. Like, it's not about the tools. It's about the food, you know? And I think some people get like, it's easy, like, you know, to like, even like with like podcast equipment, like, oh, what microphone am I going to use? What camera am I going to use? Like, it's more important, like, what are we going to be talking about? You know? So like more about, like, I would say food quality. Like, if you're going to like maybe a slightly higher end grocery store, I mean, the quality of food can be increased so much, especially with something like produce. I mean, if you can go from like maybe like a Walmart to like a Publix to like a Whole Foods to like an actual farmer's market, like that's gonna make a bigger bang for your buck, like difference than like what pans and pots you used. So that I think that would be the main focus is like execution and quality of food.
I like that. How do you decide a menu for somebody? Do you even make a menu? Like, is it a preset menu that you've made for like a week, 2 weeks, or something like that? Like, what's your process for determining that? Obviously, with some of these folks that are like super famous and it's like hard to get in touch with sometimes, like, okay, you're playing a different game with guessing, right? But it's like for somebody who is like, they hire you and you know, like they want you to make them a menu, they don't. What's your process for typically doing that or making it easier for yourself?
So what I traditionally do is just ask, what do they want? Everyone's going to want something a little bit different. The trend that I've been seeing recently, and this is not always, but just recently, most of my clients right now that I cook for don't even care. They don't even want to know. They don't want to think about it. They just want food to show up. They eat it. It tastes good. They're losing weight. They're getting healthier. They're happy. You know, they don't want the conscious decisions. They're like, I take away like all the effort, even the thought process of food. Food just appears now. They don't have to think about what do I want to eat, what's at the grocery store. But also, I have a deeper understanding of the foods they like. So they know everything I give them is going to be something they like. And I also I like to get a lot of feedback when I'm cooking for people. So like I have a really good idea of like what their favorite dishes I make is. So like I can just I know I have so many, like for each client, I kind of have like a file and I have like go-to recipes that like they enjoy a lot. And if someone like sometimes people do want like, more of a menu style and like each week we kind of pick out. And I do have a client like that too, where we go through like I have more recipes than I can count. And we kind of go through the recipes and like she's like, I'll send her the options for this week. So I'll do this one and this one. It's like, okay, cool, we'll do that. And then like, some people want a different thing every day. Some people want, some people actually like the consistency of keeping it really simple and just eating the same thing every day. And each week kind of switching it out a little bit. It just, honestly, everything I do is very dependent on what the person wants. So it's just all about them.
I love that. What do you think for people who are considering because I think when you think about a personal chef, you're like, oh, that's too good to be true. Like, I don't think I can find somebody, especially maybe in a lot of people's budgets. Like, it just seems like this really thing that super wealthy people only have access to, right? But I remember I had this one client who she was an ER nurse in like Arizona and super stressed out. She was going through a lot of stress also because her sister got diagnosed with cancer and like was going through hospice and all that kind of stuff. And I remember as she was going through a bit of a grieving process, it was like her friend had like was doing a meal prep business or something like that, where she basically cooked like lunches or dinners, or it was even like 1 or 2 meals maybe, right, for like a week, to the point where she wasn't like a super famous person like you, or like a big a big personal or private chef or anything, but I could tell, because I was in charge of the fitness side of things with her, like how much stress it relieved off of her plate to just have a meal there, even though there's like fresh meals and what do you call it, like all those meal prep service companies that do these kinds of things. It still doesn't hit quite like somebody doing it all
No,
for
a
you.
lot of people that hire me have tried like the meal prep companies first. It's very different, like taste wise, food quality wise. A lot of it has been frozen, and if it hasn't been frozen, it's like still days old by the time. It's a very different experience. And I would say, like, I mean, yeah, if you're paying for a private chef, if you're paying for a personal trainer, like it is kind of like an additional cost. Like it's an investment. It definitely is, but that's what it is. Like I think people don't realize like you're investing in something that's also going to make you like healthier, which in turn is probably going to make you live longer. So it's just how much is your time worth in the micro and the macro? Yeah. Like how much is your time worth in the micro, like day to day? It's like what else you can do with that time, whether it's work and you actually financially making money, or like we talked about earlier, investing that time into your family time, which is very, very scarce. Yes. And then in the macro, which is like, okay, if I pay, let's just say $50,000, nice easy number. If I pay $50,000, but I lose 60 pounds or I lose 20 pounds, or even if I just get healthier and add a little bit of muscle, right, I might add a year, 2 years, 3 years onto my life, which I think that's worth $50,000, and it could be even way more than that. So I think it's just, people look at things, it's kind of like how I looked at, oh, do I spend $500 on going to this conference? And it's like, you're just looking at the price. You're not looking at the value or like the true potential of what it could be. That $500 is maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah. Just like that $50,000 might add 5 years to your life. Yeah. That's 5 more years with your kids, 5 more years with your grandkids. That might be the difference between walking your daughter down the aisle and not. So there's so many, and those things are priceless. So it really depends on how you look at it, and like you have to like appreciate the value that it's going to bring you for it to be worth it to you.
One of the cool things that inspires me about your model and the way you're kind of doing everything, right, is that you are somebody who is similar to like very high in demand, like you're a technician, you're great at your craft, right? And people want you, and you're figuring out like, how do I, yes, you can scale that, right? You can have somebody else who's training, and you're trying to hire out more yous who's training for you, and then eventually maybe people who are cooking similar to you, for example, right? But I think you give hope for somebody who's like, you know what? I just want to be really good at what I'm doing. Yep. Work with people that I like, a couple people that give me some crazy brand recognition, right? That I build relationships with. I don't need 200 clients, maybe, right? I need 5 or I need 10 max, maybe, right? It's a model that I think is like getting lost because everybody's so fixated on like $1 billion or $100 million or something, where it's just like it's so big, it's hard to wrap your mind around. How would you like, because I'm sure there was probably a time in your career where did you see this happening for yourself, where it was like you're driving around 33 hours, right? And you're like, how am I ever going to scale up the more amount of people I'm cooking for? Or how am I going to add a few more clients? Like basically the battle between delivering the work. This is the part nobody talks about, because like online, a lot of things are digital, and maybe people have a team, but it's like when you're a solopreneur, when you're starting out, like you're the manager and the maker, right? You got to deliver the work, but you also have to go get the work and close it, right? So during that period where you're like, man, I'm doing all the right things, I'm putting in all the goodwill, right? But I'm also driving around 33 hours a week, and I don't know, like, how am I going to add a new person into this? What were you thinking during that time that got you through?
Honestly, like what was happening then has kind of like shifted a little bit, because like my initial thought process was like, I'm just going to keep hiring and like higher scale, like go to different cities. And those are things I can do in the future. honestly, right now, I think I never really realized how profitable it could be just to keep like really small, just like few employees and just double down on what I do best. And I think right now that's definitely the direction I'm going because it also fits like what I want to do in my life right now. Like I have so many amazing opportunities, and like I want to end on this. I think it should not be lost on anyone that's listening that three people I'm cooking for next month, the three people I'm cooking for next month mainly, and I'm going to be traveling just to cook for these three people is Kevin Hart, Agent, and Jason. The three people we talked about that I delivered the most value to in my life, those three people combined are going to pay me more money next month than I made in my first year of personal training. Now, I'm not saying I made that much in that year, but still, that just shows you, like, and we're only talking about a few years removed from that. Like, and just ending on, like, this is the power of the leverage. And really using that goodwill to leverage that. And the thing is, too, is like, all those three people, I kept saying it over and over again, they're great people. They are my favorite people to be around. Truly. Like, if I could only pick a few people that I could spend time with, these are my closest friends. Especially like Agent and Jason, because we have years of friendship that's been built. Like, these are my closest friends. Like, and I'm so grateful because I get to spend so much time with them. And like, not only am I like making this like money, but like I get to be around good people, which I don't care how famous you are. I don't care how much like money you have. If you're not a good person, I don't want to be around you. If you are a good person, I do want to be around you. And I'm so lucky and grateful that like I get to be around this caliber of people financially, but also like quality of person wise too.
Dude, you're doing great things, man. And I'm honored that you took the time out of your day to fly here and talk shop. I know you have a flight to now catch and make back. But dude, thank you once again for doing this.
Yeah,
I
no
know
problem.
this might be the first of many, and we're going to continue to follow along and see all the good stuff that you do. But for people who want to keep up with what you're doing, follow and support what you're doing, where can they find you? Where would you like to point people to?
Yeah, you can definitely follow me on Instagram. That's like the main platform I'm most active. Chris Boxing Fitness, just all spelled out.
Great. I will link that up in the descriptions wherever you're listening or watching. But dude, again, thank you. This was so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
I'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Sounds good, man. Thank you.